So you finish, I'll just gonna read out with you, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, this is my first class. I didn't know it started.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, it started 3 weeks ago. Okay, that's
You
fine.
can catch girl the notes.
Yeah, I know because I saw that we already went through five units. I was like, wow.
And last week, unfortunately, I couldn't make it, so I missed.
Trust.
Hello, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Good morning,
Good
everybody.
Good
morning.
morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
What can I say? Saturday morning that is not virtual.
Oh.
My.
I hope.
Okay, we have one person online.
Okay. All right.
Hello,
Well, some people are online.
I was supposed to get your email, because I missed class last week and I know you normally record. So I don't know if you can help us sister out in some way.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I was on mute. I didn't record last week.
What?
I was in person to class last week.
All of my heart. Oh
They're very weak.
no. Yes. So you, but
Mhm.
you can remember what y'all did though.
Yeah, I can. I could probably send it to you.
Okay, I can get your number.
437
437
2321.
2321. And what's your name again?
Ashay.
Lachey?
ASHAE.
ASHAE.
Pickstock, yeah.
Okay, got you. So I can message you right now.
I wonder
Okay.
why that name sounds familiar, Shay.
Hello, Mr. Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Oh, my name sounds familiar too? It's a small world after all.
Yes, sir.
For sure, for sure. Okay, well, let's give the others a few more minutes to come in. Then we'll begin. Does that work? I hope these other ones.
Nathaniel had come in too last week.
Yeah, Daniel was there last week.
Everybody was here except me.
How did that happen?
Well, unfortunately, I have an event that went over. I work in a salon on the weekends.
Oh,
And I was doing this lady here for a photo shoot.
oh.
And I
So you were like doing like celebrity work?
kinda, yeah, on
Okay.
set, but I
Yeah.
thought I would have been done in time, but I didn't.
Yeah,
So
I know. So the other part of your life suffered.
yes, tremendously. Because Miss Acho, we had a case. I think she went over a case, and it was I missed that because I really wanted to know what she was going to say.
Well, somebody should be able to
But I
give you a
know
synopsis.
That young lady is always on.
Ashay?
Yeah, and she
Yeah,
always
she's always on.
records. So the fact that she came in person, yes, last week, I'm like,
Yeah, like what are the
wow.
odds of that?
I know.
Yeah, life is really weird,
That's
isn't
just
it?
my fate.
Yeah. And you have a few more of them in your lifetime, I guarantee you it. Okay?
Oh, man.
For sure, life is like that.
Ugh.
Yes. I'll give you an example. Just to show you, it doesn't only happen when you're young. It happens when you get older too. Okay? Last week, I had a scheduled plan for this week. I had an idea what was going to happen. All right. Now, Mrs. Wilkinson was scheduled to do a little procedure, which had a set date. Okay, so you plan for that. Then the week begins. Watch this. Monday. Mind you, everything was set before Monday.
Mhm.
Radiator runs hot.
Oh, gee.
So now you're running up and down trying to find a
How
radiator.
to get this fixed.
Call all the places and nobody had a radiator in stock.
What?
So right on time.
No,
Wow.
that's the other thing. It's not weird.
That is weird.
Yeah. And then run up and down the aisle. And finally, somebody said, oh, looks like somebody punctured the bottom of the radiator thing. It needs a cap thing. I said, do you have it? None in stock. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I call her on it. Do you have the thing that goes? No. I'm like, this is not good. I'm just showing you, it doesn't stop like when. Okay. So finally the guy said, you know what? Maybe I could repair it for you until something comes in. I'm like, oh, thank God, TG. Thank you, God. So finally that thing comes. But this whole thing clashed with a previous engagement that I had to do a training session on Wednesday and Thursday with a major firm. So this was like already all messed up. So everything got kind of. Absolutely. Then I got the call later in the week, like, do you know that you have a class on Saturday? Yes, you guys. I'm like, really? Which Saturday? Next Saturday? They said, no, this one. I'm like, you kidding me? They said, no. They said, no, this one. And I'm like, really now? Do I need that to go along with this, and this, and this, and this?
And here you are.
Yeah, and here I am. So driving, plus driving back and forth, my wife's thing. So she's now, with her feet are having a ball. So they're supposed to be discharging her today. So if you see me in the middle class like this and they say, I'm gonna say, we'll finish up next week.
Okay.
Because I'll be the hell out of here.
Yeah, you gotta go get it.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it'll be a long weekend too. Even though she's supposed to be recuperating. You want me to be there?
She ain't gonna let you live.
No, no, man.
You have to
She
get-
said, you coming back? I said, I was just here. She said, nobody wants you to come back. First I would drive back again. She said, when you coming back? I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, it doesn't really end when you're young.
Mhm.
So don't worry, just take it in strides.
Yes.
Yeah,
I must say, now you have to catch up.
yes. Because in order to finish that thing you have to do, you have to give up something now, you have to catch up, and that's how it
I
works.
got it, opportunity cost.
Yes,
I definitely would.
yes, indeed. But it'll all settle down eventually
Yes,
and kind of help you to decide to how to make choices going forward.
yes.
Next time is like class versus here thing.
I
Class is more
know.
important. Susie, you better do that. I'm not gonna be, see like that. For sure.
At least Miss Kelly, she have to catch up now. She
Yeah,
missed.
all the way up.
all
How come,
the
Miss Kelly?
I didn't know that the classes had already started.
Oh my God, how did that happen?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
They didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, the whole confuddled thing again. Like, how in the world that,
You didn't
Because when
know.
I went on Viv's register for it, there's like trustee two, and I was like, no, I need one.
right,
But the registration was for next year, so I was
Right.
like, okay, let me call and see if I can still get in the class.
correct.
And I was able to, but I mean, we done gone through 5 units already.
Yeah, which means that this weekend is not your weekend to do anything else except catch up on reading,
Right.
right?
The
No
big
church.
success was
I mean, you
last
can listen to church like on TV, like,
Mhm.
like that. And then anybody call you, hang up the phone.
Right, I gotta
And
catch
when you
up.
leave here, go home, put on your pajamas. See, like that means you're not going anywhere
Right.
and nobody's calling you out. Hey, I just got only one. Sorry. See, now you're in the same choices
Yeah.
because now you have to catch up. So once you finish this class today, if you have anything important to do it quickly.
Yeah,
And
I
then go
started- I
home.
started reading from yesterday.
I know,
And
but you
have to
need
print
this
out
whole
the
weekend.
trust act.
Yeah, you have to trust the app.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what, it should be online.
Okay.
If you type in the Bahamas Trustee Act, you should be able to find it, right? What year is that?
Well, I got this from my mom. She
Oh, does it have the year on it? No.
But it has all the amendments in it.
Yeah, just look for the Bahamas Trustee Act and amendments
Okay.
and online and you should be able to pull it up.
Says 20.
It doesn't show,
2011. Some of it, the amendments are 2011.
yeah,
It doesn't.
I think that's the final set of amendments. But if you type in Bahamas Trustee Act amendments, you should find it. And then put it somewhere where you can access it. Some people prefer to read online, others prefer the hard copy.
And somebody else gave me this book. I
Which-
haven't got the chance to read it.
Which
yet.
one is that? What's the heading?
Equity and trust.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's some nice part-time off the cuff reading. For sure. Yes. And the weekend, especially if you're a working person, it's the best time to catch up. Because when you come from the office the afternoon, you could try something. It's not as efficient as the weekend,
No.
okay? So for the next couple of weekends when you're off, don't plan anything spectacular that's gonna leave you pooped,
Right.
like party and functions and all that stuff. Because when you come back, you're gonna be tired.
My birthday is next week Saturday.
You need to postpone it until
I'll
next
be
year.
in class.
Yeah,
I'll be in
absolutely.
class.
Absolutely. You guys, this is my birthday, I'm going, not going to class. You have to come and then like drive past somewhere, blow out the cake and leave or something if you have to do it. That's that's the nature of this business.
Yep.
That's the world of academia. You have to sacrifice and then when things are over and you finish and done, then you can go back to your normal life. For sure.
I smiled. It was not this last class, the class before that. They were trying to decipher if we should have the exam in January or we should just finish in December. So I'm glad all agreed for December because the lady said, I don't want to take this into the new year.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Suffer, get it over with. Enjoy your holiday and then the new year rolls in, you start thinking about something else
Okay.
rather
Something
than
new, because like
yeah.
she said, trust tourism.
next.
Yeah,
That's
so-
right. And my suggestion, is do two as soon as it comes up.
Yeah.
Don't say, well, I'll get to it when I'm 20 something or 30 something or what. No. Do it right away because it all ties in. It'll be, yeah, fresh. Plus, you get it out of the way. That's the whole point. Okay, for sure.
Good morning, Mr. Wilkinson. How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm fine.
That's another one.
I'm Deandra Hutchison. It's very nice to meet you.
Pleasure indeed, Deandra. Welcome aboard. Well, I'm the one
Thank you.
coming aboard. Pleasure indeed. Okay, so how many people are online? Two? Deandra and Shay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then two are here, that's four. So three are somewhere wandering around. So we'll begin. All right. So the name of this class then is what again?
Trust law and administration.
Okay, just want to make sure we're all on the same boat. I was hoping nobody said, don't you know the name, Mr. Wilkinson? And I would say, yes, do on purpose. Trust law and administration, part 1 or 2?
One.
Yes, which means that there is a part 2 coming up next semester, I believe, sometime. So those of you who are doing part 1, save some money, borrow some, put some away from Christmas money, whatever you have to do towards your next semester. All right, absolutely. If your employer is paying, let them know in advance that the next one is coming up next semester so that they don't say you didn't tell them. Okay, and then if they say, well, they can't pay for some reason, don't say you're a liar and just say, and then you have your own money. How about that?
Yes.
Okay, that's the deal. All right, so yeah, trust law and administration. We're continuing from your initial session, I believe, and then there's a session after this, and then there's an examination. So between now and middle of December, you guys are going to be busy, and that's okay. That's what you do when you sign up for these things, so don't worry about it. Keep reading, keep studying, keep making notes. That's all I can say. Don't plan any fun stuff. Don't let anybody take you away, because when you're struggling and suffering, they are going to be doing whatever they're doing and they don't care. And they don't want to hear your problems about how you didn't get through. How about that? The very same people who called you, the very same people who wasted your time. And your family, so especially family. Family can be very heartless when it comes to these things.
Yeah, so. tell
Okay.
me about-
Uh-huh. Okay, they loved you, they just encourage you, okay, you're studying, okay, you'll see when the semester over. They still want to waste time and then you don't get to, what happened to you, Juanita? You dummy. Then it starts talking about you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So let's see who's here present today. I'm the new kid on the block today, so you're introducing yourselves to me. When I call your name, just tell me who you are and why you are doing this class. Okay, let's start at the top. Lovette.
Yeah.
Oh, right at the top, Lovette. Okay, Lovette, let it rip.
Wow. Recently graduated from the University of Bahamas this May.
Man, you're babe in swaddling clothes, just getting started. Wow,
And as soon as before graduation, I got a new job at Mitsubishi,
yes,
and I'm a junior trust administrator. So
already.
for me,
That's
I
good.
wanted to do this course because I want to know exactly what it is when things come my way, what it entails, and what really is the makeup of trust. So I
Absolutely.
just don't be, just working.
Going through the
don't
motions,
understand,
yes, yes.
what I'm doing. So that is why I'm here. And
Good.
like I told you, I had a client last week. I was a cosmetologist previous to this, but I also was at UB getting my bachelor's degree.
Indeed, indeed, excellent. What did you get your degree in?
Business management.
Good stuff, good stuff, way to go. So you are beautiful and intelligent.
Halfway,
Doggone Put all that stuff up, so when you need your thing done,
Oh my
get a
God.
number, tell her, give you a discount.
Say less.
Absolutely, it's called networking.
Yes.
Yes. All right, well, thank you, Lavette, welcome aboard.
Thank
You mentioned your mom works for a law firm.
Well, yeah, she is a legal assistant. She
Okay.
works right there, actually, the Crown Thompson.
On this bloody building.
Yeah,
Okay, how about that? Yeah.
she been there forever too.
I figured as much. What's her name?
Arlene Bethel.
That's your mom?
Yes.
Small world. I must be getting old. Back in the day, I used to be a loan manager at Bank of Nova Scotia many, many, many decades ago. I just cannot believe it. I even had an afro then. So you know how long ago that was. Okay? Man, and Graham Thompson used to be one of the bank's attorneys. Okay. And so we used to send mortgages. I used to do all that crap back then. So yeah, I probably know, probably not necessarily personally, but maybe if I say, from back in the day,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Because I know Michelle and Miss Sands and all these other people are there.
Yes.
What's his name? Oh man, it'll come. A whole group of them who are still there.
Mhm.
By the way. Okay, well, good stuff, Lavette. You're definitely in the right place as a junior trust administrator. These two parts 1 and 2 will definitely be up your alley. Okay, I'm sure you've learned a lot of interesting stuff in the first few sessions already. You'll learn some more, and then when you get in part 2, some more interesting things will come along that will be very helpful. All right. Okay, Dandra. Okay, Dandra's on the way. Nathaniel. Guys are always absent. Not
I know he
always.
does construction too, so.
I know, we have a reason. But I have 2 sons, you see? One like jumps on stuff right away and the other one does stuff. But he's the younger son. He tends to procrastinate. He gets to it, but every now and then, like, I'm getting to it, Dad. Like he's always analyzing it. I'll get to it when I'll get to it, and then finally he gets to it. And I'm like, oh God, why am I worrying about it still?
In the last minute.
Yeah, fellas. Okay, so Nathaniel, hopefully you'll get it together. All right, Siobhan. Okay, Siobhan, Kelly, let it rip. Tell me who you are and why you're here.
Okay, Siobhan Kelly,
Mhm.
I'm from Scotiabank. I just recently got a development opportunity in the management department.
Excellent.
So I felt that just like I wanted to learn more about the ins and outs of it instead of somebody just telling me what they do. I want
Yes.
to know why you do it and understand everything
Yes,
about wealth management. And I know
excellent.
Trustee is a part of this.
A big part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, trusteeship is a huge, major part of wealth management, for sure. In fact, a very inherent part of the wealth management process. Many of the billions of dollars floating around the world are in trusteeships that are considered to be part of the wealth management process. Anyway, so yes, the interesting thing about you guys, back in the old days, folks just like to tell you stuff and don't want to tell you why.
Right.
Then when you ask why, they look like they're a little upset, or you ask why. Then when you finally get them to say something, they sound a little impatient. And then you have to keep asking them why. And they never volunteer to say why when they should say and all that crazy stuff. And the reason why I know is because decades ago, I was an unusual kind of person because I always wanted to, always ask why. And folks, that Wilkinson boy again, that seemed like that, trying to persuade me to shut up and just do what they say. That suffices to say, I didn't. So I always ran into the, because people just wanted to dictate everything and didn't really want you to like raise issues and question them. Okay, and my problem was I had to raise issues and questions, so I was always politely, I did professionally, but it doesn't matter how you do it, they still like, But that's okay, don't let it stop you from doing what you have to do. And so the fact that you're here to get information because you want to know what's going on, that's the key. Because what you're really saying indirectly to the status quo, keep your stinking wise. So I'm just being facetious. I'll find out my own way by coming to and listening to what lecturers have to say and other people. That's the deal. Okay, way to go. Siobhan, so you and Levette are definitely on the right track. Okay. Shay. Is that a Shay or a Shane?
Ashay.
Shay, okay, so they spelled it incorrectly here. Okay, Shay, tell me why you're here. Shay picks up.
Hello, Mr. Wilkinson.
Hi.
I work at Social Wealth Management and Client Accounting.
Yes,
And I recently started working in client accounting. I used to work in the actual branch.
right.
So I'm just trying to understand wealth management and the whole trust process a little bit more better.
Excellent. Then you as well are definitely in the right place. It's interesting. So you guys are all kind of like on the same boat. Why did they kick you at the branch into wealth management?
It was a choice. I applied for a job and I got it.
Oh, you one of the lucky ones. Because working in wealth management is considered like a great honor in the banking system.
Correct.
You're in private banking now, so you think you are something. Do they still do that?
They do.
Yes. By the way, what do you do in client accounting anyway? Just like,
I'm an assistant in client accounting.
okay, so that means they have you doing what, for example?
Preparing financials, reviewing financials to make sure that what the client accountant has there is correct.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, because client accountants send in all kinds of interesting things, don't they?
correct.
Yes. All right, way to go, way to go. And of course, this side of things will keep you balanced in terms of when you see certain expressions come through your financials, you have an idea of what they mean because you've sat through these sessions and suffered through examinations.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, say, way to go, way to go. Welcome aboard. All right, Alicia. Oh, Alicia's the other person who's out in Nathaniel, who's running around with Andra. Okay, Janika.
She was here, she left.
Oh, she was here.
She works with me, but work took her out because she had prior engagements on the weekend.
Doggone it, Alicia
Travel.
Wilson. Okay, so she won't be coming back here. Then just make a note of that. I know all kinds of things are going on. That's the whole thing, and you have to keep balancing it and determining what your priorities are. Again, if you have to hit the road, you know what the reading requirements are. You have to stay on top of your game so you don't get caught up, lost, lag behind, and then examination time, you're like, oh, God hates me. Why did I do this course in the first? Wasted my money. Okay, Janika.
That's who isn't here.
Okay. So
She
one,
won't
two.
come back.
Who else is online other than Ashay?
Deandra Hutchison.
Okay, Deandra. I just need to put a tick to your name. Yes, Deandra, indeed.
Okay, so I've been in commercial banking for a few years now, and
Okay.
I have a new desire to shift to my career path a little. So
Okay.
now I'm interested in learning about trust, and eventually, hopefully, getting into a position at a trust company?
Well, there are some people in trust companies somewhere around this room. So I hope you were listening and taking notes. We have somebody from Winterbottom and somebody from Scotiabank and all that stuff. So it's called networking. And if you are interested, you never know. If you touch base with them at some point before it's all over, they can only say yes or no. If they say no, then you keep on trucking, but you never know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Yandra,
Yes.
how's that? Okay, I'll bill you later for that little bit of advice. All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Let's just get started with what we have to do for the next 3 sessions. Does anybody remember how many units we'll be doing in this section?
3,
Units
6 to 9.
6 to 9. I know. Let's get my name right here. Levette counts like my wife. She says from 6 to 9 is 3. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that
4.
correct?
Yeah.
I know. You trust me. I'm not picking on. I'm just a lot of us do it that way because you say 6 to 9 is 3.
Right.
Why not? Okay, but technically 6 to 9 is really 4. Okay, and lots of us do that for sure. Okay, if my wife is counting from 9 to 12, she'll count it as 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm like, how could, sweetheart, you can't say 9, 10. You have to start from what? 10, 11, 12.
Right.
So as how many hours from 9 to 12? She says 4. I said, how'd you get that? She says 9, 10, 11, 12.
Wow.
And then I have to say, remember what I told you, you don't start at the 9. And she's, oh God. But she still does it. Don't worry about it. We all do it. Okay, so unit 6 through 9. So unit 6. Which unit is that? What does that cover?
It says duties and powers of trustees.
Okay, duties and powers of trustees. That's what we'll do today. And then unit 7 covers, yeah, that funny word, remuneration.
I know Miss Archibald is to mark this important,
Yes.
but it's not that.
Trustee remuneration has to do with, well, you'll see. Trustees get paid or not for the work they do, and if they do, how they should do it, and what the legal way to do it is, and if you don't do it the legal way, you don't get paid, et cetera, et cetera. And then unit number 8. Yes, retirement and removal. Because some trustees don't do their job properly, by the way. And some have been doing it for so long, they decided it's time to go and let somebody younger do it, some other firm do it, some other person do it, for whatever reason. So there are rules and regulations and steps involved in the retirement and or the removal of trustees. And then finally, unit 9.
The role and responsibilities of the trust administrator.
Yeah, she's a junior administrator, so she'll be doing stuff that the senior administrator, do that, get that, bring that on. She's, oh man, it's a bloody job. Okay, the role and
Responsibility.
yeah, responsibility of the trust administrator. Okay, so from what I can see, we'll probably get through this today, these 2 next week, and then this thing here in the final week, something like that. At the end of the day, we should get through all of it the way we need to. All right. So my next question then is, I know you guys have covered some material already. So I will ask a very fundamental question in trust. So because there's some fundamental things I'm sure you figured out that no matter what else you do in the trust world, you have to keep remembering these names and these fundamentals. It's like debits and credits in accounting. It's very fundamental. It's like preparing a journal entry. But if you hear me talk about accounting, that's because I'm an accountant as well, and I've been teaching accounting forever. If I say how long, you might, think, oh, this guy is an auntie. But yeah. Forever. Okay, so. Well, you know what? Maybe the institute didn't tell you guys something, but maybe I should just give you a little background so you didn't think I just ran out the bush to do this with you. Back in the day, when I started my career, I was a customs officer. Well, I used to work at Citibank first when I was a youngster, like 19. Doggone it. As a teller. And then because they were only paying me a couple of bucks as a teller, and I was thinking about going to night school, and I didn't have any parents to pay and all that, like my children and other people. Customs said they'll pay me $128 a week. And since I was only getting $65 a week in customs at City, then see that?
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes when my children, I say, Dad, because every now and then I tell them just so they don't take the whole thing for granted, think like their father was born with a big cigar. Because they get to cool out, see, at my expense. But anyway, when customs said they'll pay me 128, I'm like, oh, thank you, God. To me, big difference a week. Okay? Because now I have a little bit of extra money to go to night school. I could borrow less money from the bank to make up the difference and whatever. And the night school was the same. College of the Bahamas. Okay, so yeah, interesting. I spent 2.5 years at customs, and then Scotiabank called and said they were looking to train loan managers. See that? Talk about fate. I'm like, oh, thank you, God. This is, when can you start? I'm like, last week. So, it's been 7 years or something at Scotia. Then while I was at Scotia, I was studying, see, accounting. All of this working and just like you guys, okay, not like my children. They went to university full-time, no student loans, kickback when they need money. Man, I said, you guys, when I get old, if you don't take care of me, maybe cursed and go to hell and burn. They laugh at me. I said, because if it wasn't, I could have told you to go to work and pay your own, just like me.
Yeah.
And save my money, and I wouldn't even have been here. I'd be in Dubai with my feet up.
Just like that.
Yes. Even my baby asked me the other day, he was 25. He said, Dad, if you didn't have us, wouldn't you be rich? I said, no, filthy rich. Because now he's beginning to get it. Like how much money was just spent on what? Him alone. Not his brother, him. So now he's trying to put putting it together now, and he's older.
You ever told them your story?
Yes, and they're like horrified, like, how did you do it?
Wow.
And I get it.
It's powerful.
Yeah,
$65.
yeah,
$128.
yes, a week.
$65 for lunch now.
Exactly right.
And I was crying.
Aha. Okay, that was the whole thing. So when I signed up for COB back then, I took all of my salary plus borrowed money to pay for my school fees. Walk to school, walk back at night.
Wow.
No, but a car, who's gonna give me a car? Who's gonna pick me up? Nobody's available. Like, so while I was in Scotia, I was studying accounting. They didn't have any positions in accounting when I was done. So I resigned from Scotia, and people were horrified. Oh, you left Scotia? I understood why. Because when you go to some institutions, you stay there until you die, meaning until you retire. But anyway, so then I started my life as an accountant and financial controller. See, so I spent many years working in the banking industry, the hotel industry, transportation as a financial controller. So that was this is the life number one, life number two. Then after that, I had a life number three, another 20 years in private banking.
Wow.
Can you believe that crap?
Wow.
Sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Why didn't I just go somewhere, sit there until I was trying to retire like everybody else? What the hell was I doing? So then private banking. So I work for a French Canadian bank, private bank. I work for a Swiss private bank. I work for a Brazilian private bank. I work for a Filipino private bank. Can you believe that crap?
So many languages to speak.
Well, I certainly don't speak Filipino because they love to speak English. That's first. They don't want you to speak Filipino, they want you to speak English. That's the first thing. But I can manage with Spanish and a little bit of Portuguese. Okay. Yo hablo español un poquito. Mi nombre es Samuel. Vivo en Bahamas. Tengo dos hermanos. Cuando necesito dinero, yo puedo
You lost
dinero.
me after, you have 2 sons. You lost me after that.
There you go. But that's okay.
Yeah, I know money.
Yeah.
Yeah, dinero.
Yeah.
And that's my point. You don't have to know everything.
Right.
You don't have to understand everything. You just need to be able to say the key things.
Right.
Because you notice when immigrants come in, illegal or illegal, they may not know everything. Just say money, sick, dead, mad. See? And we understand them between gestures and 1 and 2 words. And so if you're learning a foreign language, don't worry about if you remember everything, don't worry about it. Just keep working on the key stuff and you'll still be able to function. Like if you're learning Spanish, for example, you don't need to learn all the philosophical, linguistic stuff behind Spanish. We don't even know all of that about English.
Yeah.
Similar point, just be able to converse. Okay. So if you know necesitar means I need, and you know carro, you say necesito carro. You don't say I would like to have a car in a moment. For what? All you have to say is necesito un carro. They know you need a car. Okay? Necesito un doctor. They know you need a doctor. Estoy enfermo. You don't say, I believe I'm feeling sick at the moment based on how I feel. You don't have to say all that. Just say, estoy enfermo. I am sick. See my point? That's it. So yeah, all this crap. And during these forever years, I can't believe I've lived so long already doing all this nonsense.
Praise God.
Yeah, that's true. Praise God. Yes. So nice to hear that coming from a youngster though. Because most youngsters are out in the deep end, praising everything else. All right, so yeah, and so I worked in senior management in these places, what we call senior officer 1 and 2 in the Bahamas, in the private banking sector, compliance, even in the accounting department, all kinds of crazy stuff. And you think that after this, that would be the end. I'm like, that's the end. No, after that, then I went and in some pension fund. And then I work at the Securities Commission for some egg time as a consultant. Man, I don't know what the hell I was doing. Even my wife said, shouldn't you just go on and just work until I said, yeah. But if I had done that, then you wouldn't have gone, see, this is the globe. This is my wife behind me everywhere. So to see these things, I had to fly these places to do different things.
Right.
And every time I went to places, am I going? She started packing. I'm like, did I invite you, sweet? I said, no, I won't go.
That's all it is.
Anyway, just a little background.
We saw the world through you.
Yeah, she did. She did. That's fine. But I just kind of said that so you guys could be encouraged. Don't worry about all the blah, blah, blah. Everything takes care of itself in due season. You just have to start somewhere and you guys are definitely doing that. All right. So what are the 3 key players in the trustee program setup agenda? Who are the 3 key players that we all have to keep remembering at all times? Player number 1, the settlor. What does that person do?
Establish a trust.
Yeah, they establish a trust. And for what reason?
The assets.
Remember, como español, tu preguntas no necesitas ser perfecto. Doesn't have to be perfect. Your answer, just let it rip. Why does the settlor set up a trust?
Protect their assets when they die.
Okay, that's kind of to do it, to protect the assets, but that's not the primary reason.
So avoid probate.
Yeah, to avoid probate.
To avoid probate, that's another reason, but that's not the only reason.
To their family.
Aha, to make provisions for their families when they pass on. Okay? And those persons who settlers make provisions for are called? Yes, beneficiaries. So these are the people who don't have to do anything to get everything,
Right.
depending on how big the trust is and what's been allocated to them. That's why we call them beneficiaries. They don't have to do nothing. Once the settler says, I say, this is what I want to go to my wife, my children, the dog and the cat, the trustee is obligated to do that. Okay? Wow, how about that? And then the third key player in this triangle is?
Not the protector.
No.
The trustee.
Who?
The trustee.
Oh. Is that person important?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a middleman.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, this should be here.
Yeah.
Settler
About
goes to
the
trustee, then
beneficiaries.
beneficiaries at the end. So the trustee is the third player. And they're the ones who make sure that the wishes, remember that word?
Mhm. The wishes of the
Yeah, these
settler.
are words that you have to remember into infinitum if you're in wealth management and trusteeship. Okay, of any kind, because they keep coming up always. Okay. So the trustee is charged with making sure that the wishes of the settlor are carried out with respect to the beneficiaries. Now, when these assets are transferred from the settlor to the trustee, is that a legal process? The transfer. I just want to make sure that you have these things clear in your mind before we go on.
Because if it isn't, it'll be fraudulent.
It'll be,
Fraudulent.
may not, it could be fraudulent, but worse than that, if it's not legal, then it cannot take effect.
Mhm.
In order for a trust relationship to be effective, the assets of the settlor must be legally transferred to the, in other words, if the settlor is transferring land, the land has to be conveyed to the trustee, which means that the settlor cannot get it back again ever. That's it. That's how trusteeships work. Unless, of course, you set up a certain kind of trust where you make provisions to be able to get it back in your lifetime. That kind of trust you can see now under modern trusteeships. In the old days, they didn't allow that. Once the assets are transferred to the trustee, that's it. But some trusts in certain jurisdictions and what we call modern trusteeships, you can set it up where the settlor can actually take possession of the assets in his or her lifetime. Ideally, that's not the best situation, okay, but it can be done. Ideally, once the assets are transferred to the trustee, that's it. That's why, in common law jurisdictions, this is how it works. What's the name of the other jurisdiction if it's not common law?
Civil.
Civil jurisdictions. Civil jurisdictions are based on legal structures. Persons in civil jurisdictions do not like trusts because they don't want to transfer their assets to another entity called a trustee.
The court tells them what to do. right?
Yes, the law tells them how their assets are going to be distributed, not you. So in a civil jurisdiction, anybody can remember that one civil jurisdiction in the world that comes to mind? Well, Latin American countries tend to be, all the Latin American countries, European countries, certain, well, not all of them, because the UK is European and there's common law emanated from the UK. But certain other countries, Eastern countries, not necessarily European, Eastern countries like China,
China.
India, Africa, those kinds of countries, Middle Eastern countries, they tend to be more on the civil law side, where the law and the courts decide how your assets going to be distributed. Doesn't matter what you think. And you're like, but they're mine. They're like, so? That's why we in the Bahamas, for example, don't realize how fortunate we are that we can still control stuff. Because many countries in the world, you own it, but you don't control it. The law controls it. In places like China, you don't have any right to land, for example. It's all in the name of Xi Jinping, whoever the hell he is. The Communist Party, see? The dictatorship of North Korea, that kind of stuff. Taking people's stuff, people are catching hell and
That's why they're
suffering.
so rich.
Yeah, and Fatty is doggone cool. 1900 yards straight child, man. And what is interesting, nobody will get pissed off and like sneak up on him and
No.
like they just accepted it. Oh, the fathead who's threatening in the world, they're blowing everything up. See my point? It's a strange, the mind is a strange thing. And when you could get people in such a deep control, and they can't say anything negative, you say anything negative in those countries, you disappear.
That's true.
Right?
Quick.
Very quick. We could still walk down the road downtown like Lincoln Bay and carry on and just get one little stinky arrest and nothing happened. Next day he's out in the street again. He doesn't disappear. But I think maybe we need to have we like to call rallies. We need to have a big old rally somewhere so that Bahamians can be reminded of how fortunate we are. Because we still seem to be ignorant about it. And if we're not, we're taking it to hell for granted compared to other nations in the world. Okay, folks? So you guys fight to maintain the freedoms you have. Do not. You're the youngsters. Okay? My fighting days are coming to an end. And they always didn't like because I always question things. Why are you doing it that way? Shouldn't we be doing that way? It's like that Wilkinson boy again. See, kind of, they don't like that. Folks don't like you to question stuff. Okay. Like, for example, see, even in this scenario, sometimes between the settlor and the beneficiaries, you have all kinds of things going on, friction. The beneficiaries are upset with the settlor for not giving them what they think they should get. See my point? The beneficiaries are fighting with the trustees because they think the trustees should be doing something else. And so a lot of fighting is going on that you guys don't see because you're behind the scene doing a little client accounting. You don't see this fight. But those persons who are in the upper echelons of the trusteeship or the firm or whatever, they get to see and hear about the discourse that takes place. We here studying the textbook version, but in real life, it's not as cherry as the textbook. This is the cherry version. Okay, be assured to see many of these trusteeships, these legacies are multi-million-dollar legacies. And these beneficiaries who didn't do any work to get it, they just inherited it through the trusteeship. They are every year fighting over what they should get. They heard the other beneficiary got more. I hate that sister, that brother stinks. Why they gave it to the dog? I'm a human. All kinds of stuff going on because money will kind of make you go crazy. Even though you didn't do anything to what? Earn it. We're still having a big fight. But that's the non-textbook side of things. Okay.
Did we see it even when people made wills?
Of course, right here in Nassau, Bahamas. Of course. They only leave me $1,500. Yeah, all I do, and then they leave that dog who ain't do nothing. But sometimes people leave stuff for people who do nothing, and they leave less for people who did everything. Because you don't really have any guarantee of what people will put in the will.
Right.
So if you're gonna do something, just do it out of the goodness of your heart, let it go, because you don't really know what they're gonna do. Okay? And I've seen many cases outside of trusteeships, just in wills through the years, where the neighbors was there all the time for an elderly person or whatever, or sick person or both, and their children were there, nobody came, nobody showed up, and still, at the end of the day, when the person died, they left it to their whomever, because blood is still thicker than, no matter what you do. That's another thing. So if you're not doing it out of the goodness of your heart, then leave it, because blood will always be, with few exceptions. Every now and then people make exceptions. Yeah, they like eggs. You stinking children, I'm not leaving you anything. Because you won't even call your mom or something. But most of the time, no matter what they do, they're gonna still leave it to them. Most of the time. Okay. So yeah, these are the non-textbook issues that you don't see in the notes. But in real life, these are the things that are going on. So this is the foundation of the trust. And the trust in environment and administration. The other thing I want to mention before we get started with Unit 6, okay, the duties and powers of the trustee, because this is, see this here? This is what we call the foundation stuff. This is how it all gets started. Foundation. And we all know Without a proper foundation, things tend to fail. Yeah. So if you don't set, you should have read by now or discussed by now that sometimes every trust that is established is not always legal. There's a word we call when it's not legal, established. What is the word? Starts with S. You haven't seen that word yet? Not a secret trust. What is a secret trust, by the way? Do you remember?
I know we discussed it.
I know. I just want to say, no, don't get me wrong. I don't expect you to remember all that crap yet. You're just getting started. Still a lot of studying to do and just throwing it out. See if you do remember. Make a guess. What do you think a secret trust is?
It's a trust made, it's a trust made that, well, I trying to remember the exact
It doesn't have
example.
to be exact.
But it's in reference to like a will, a trust made in a will.
Uh-huh. And why do we call it secret?
Because no one knows until the person dies, I think.
Yeah, sometimes a trustee might create a beneficiary that they do not want anybody to know who that beneficiary is. So we create what we call a secret trust. Let's say, for example, Tom or Mary have a child somewhere and nobody knows about the child, but they want to make provisions for that child. So that secret trust could be created so that that person will be the beneficiary upon the settler's death. Okay. There are other provisions for the secret trust as well, but that's just one example. Okay.
And you could also like leave it, if you don't want to put the person's, the child's name in the will, you could, like, for example, I can leave it to you and give you my instructions verbally and.
Absolutely, absolutely. You may not want to put the person's, absolutely. You don't want to leave the person's name because it will create a big stink with the rest of the children and so on. So you don't put the name in, but you say to the trustee in your wishes or whatever, these are the provisions I'd like for you to make for this person. Okay, for sure.
So they should know what the trust that you just asked, just not to. With the trust fall
Yeah, when a trust is not legally, yeah, sham trust. How do you know? Okay, yeah, I was hoping you'd say that. Say that's what I mean. Okay, so when people are out in the mall not wasting time, but you're jiving, you home reading like this. I'll see you guys again this semester. Yes, it's called, if a trust is not legally established, then it's referred to as a sham trust. You don't want to be a victim of a sham trust. All right. So this is the first foundational issue. The other foundational issue that you must always know are the certainties. Remember that? Did you guys do that? The certainties of a trust.
Yeah.
You must know these. How many of them?
3.
What's the first certainty?
Object.
Sorry?
Object.
Yeah, certainty of objects. What does that mean?
The object refers to the beneficiary.
Yeah, who the beneficiaries are. You have to state clearly that there are beneficiaries and who they are. If you set up a trust and don't name the beneficiaries or state who they are, then that trust could fail and will fail. Like, who are you paying it to? Okay, so the objects are the beneficiaries. See, beneficiaries must be established. Object number 2, sorry, certainty number 2.
Intention.
What is it?
Certainty of intention.
Intention meaning?
You have to say that you want to create the trust.
Yeah, you have to make it clear. Say clearly in the trust deed, right? That
Right.
you are creating a trust.
Trust.
I hereby state clearly that this is a trust. However you want to put that language, but it has to be clear. Because if you don't state clearly that you're establishing a trust, that could fail. And then certainty number 3.
Subject matter.
Yeah,
Subject matter.
certainty of subject matter meaning
Type of trust.
the type of trust. And we know that there are all kinds of different trusts out there. Haven't you done that already? Can you name a couple right off the top?
Discretionary.
Discretionary trust,
charitable.
Charm trust, secret trust,
secret trust, non
charitable trust.
charitable, yep. And a couple others hanging around, okay? And so depending on the time, by the way, what is a non-discretionary trust? Anybody remembers?
This, would that be where you can't? This discretionary is more flexible, I remember.
I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
discretionary trust is where the trustee gets to make the decisions in the trustee's discretion. However, for a non-discretionary trust, you don't get to make any decisions. Whatever the trustee document says, you have to follow it in law. Or else you, as a trustee, can end up being sued by the beneficiaries. And let me just tell you guys for the record, beneficiaries love to sue in the modern world. In the old days, beneficiaries that took what they got, they were happy to get something they didn't have to work for. But beneficiaries today, they are greedy, mean. They like to fight, argue, check for every dime, which is okay, but they will sue if they have any idea or any reason to think that the trustee is acting outside of his powers as a trustee. All right, so between the three key players and the certainties of a trust, these are the foundational issues, never to be forgotten. They are the ABCs of the trustee environment, and whatever you're doing in the world of trusteeships, those things you have to always keep in mind. Okay. By the way, what's the name of that document that establishes the trust again? Trustee.
Trustee.
Yeah, that's another word you need to remember. Trustee, almost as much as mommy and daddy. Anybody knows why we get stuck on mommy and daddy? Like we get stuck with it. Anybody knows why? Not only that they made us, because people make stuff and they don't know anything about their children anyway. Yeah, we've been saying it from day one for like 20 years minimum. So we stopped. By the time we grow up, even if they get us mad, we still say, "Mommy, you get me mad." See, like that. Daddy, you stop. So yeah. So that's it. The trustee. There's another word that we use other than deed that you might see and you need to know. Sounds of I. I. I and I. Instrument.
Oh,
Remember that?
yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I kind of use these first few moments just to give you a few reminders of what you've already done and to just remind you that, yes, you just have to stay on top of your game, make your notes, keep on reading, read over again, read until you're bored, stiff, read until you don't like reading it no more, stuff like that. That's really the way to go. All right. So now we can get into our discussions on the duties and powers of the trustees. I hope you realize by now that duties and powers are not synonymous. What do I mean? They are not synonymous. No, they're not. Some persons actually would like to think so, but the duties and powers are quite different, as we will see. And we need to make sure that we don't mix them up. Call a power a duty, and a duty a power. People still do it for obvious reasons. We like to interchange stuff. Wait a minute. Did Alicia Wilson come on?
Yes, I am here.
Doggone it. Do you know how I found out, Alicia? Because your name popped up on the screen. And I remember that when I called it earlier, you were not here.
Yes, I'm here.
Doggone it. Oh, Alicia sneaked online.
Yes.
While the rest of us are here suffering in the classroom.
Yes. Not on for long, though. I'm going to need a recording, please. Heading to a relative's funeral right now.
Oh,
Were you in class last week?
Pardon?
Were you in class last week too?
I was.
Did you record the class?
Did I record? It's on I think Miss Dean has to send the recording.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
check with Miss Jane, see if it's
Because
recorded.
for once, Ashay was in class You know, she normally be on Zoom. So I know the two of y'all be back and forth and then she records. So I just wanted to know.
I think the Institute records them all, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Check with Ms. Jean to find out if they record selectively or they record them all. I
I
think,
think they record them all though.
okay,
I think they record them all.
yeah, so check with her so that whenever Shay comes to class, you won't be stuck.
And it says recording.
Shay, why didn't come? All right, so duties and powers, welcome aboard, Alicia.
Thank you.
Okay, you were not here when we were doing introductions for me, so why don't you tell me who you are and why you're in this class? Alicia.
Alicia Wilson. I am new to the trust world. I've been in events most of my working career, events, accounting, that type of thing. And I recently switched to trust, working to a trust company. And I just want to know more. I'm in without knowing anything about trust. So I feel, you know, in order for me to move up the line, this is definitely what I need.
It is definitely what you need. So you're definitely in the right place along with the rest of your colleagues. So welcome aboard and try to get in as much of this stuff as you can because it'll all be of worthwhile as you go forward. Trust me on that one. Back in the day, I was telling my students when I first started work, I was set up working in the accounts department at Citibank, making $65 a week and wondering how I was going to eat and all that kind of stuff. And then I would have never thought I would have been dealing with all this crazy stuff. Not to mention, I didn't even know what the word trust was other than, do you trust me? Stuff like that. So don't worry about it. You guys are definitely on the right track. Keep on trucking, okay? All right. So powers and duties are not the same, and we're going to find out very shortly. Hope this isn't the call. Excuse me. Little Sam. Hey, I'm in a class session this morning. I'll call you as soon as I'm done. Okay? Okay. Samuel Jr. He's the one that lets me off the hook, like, okay, Dad, call me when you're done. My baby, he's like, well, Dad, can I just say this before? Okay. As you can see, I am daddy struck and I don't care who doesn't like it. And I don't care how old they get. That's
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay? I can still see them in the crib like that. It's weird. You'll see when you get your, can you guys some children yet? How old is your own?
5.
Oh, so you have an idea what I mean.
Mhm.
Dog on it. Okay, absolutely. She'll find out one day. All right. So what do we expect to cover under duties and powers? Okay. First of all, we expect to see like some general issues about duties of the trustee, followed by specific trustee duties with regards to what they do from day to day. That's what we call, that's where the word administration comes from. And then we're told that we'll see a little bit about the trustee as a fiduciary. That's another word you need to know. On it, fiduciary, because in the business of wealth management, that word comes up a lot. Oh, thank you. And you will hear an expression like this a lot in your future in private banking, in wealth management, and trust administration. That trustees are fiduciaries. Anybody know who's a fiduciary? Sorry? A bank? Yeah, but why? Why is a bank like a trustee a fiduciary?
I guess that's where you do most of the paperwork through. You do it through the fiduciaries.
Yeah, but why do we call them that? Well, let me give you a hint. In Latin, there's a word called fides. Fides in Latin. See, that's the problem. I'm a student of St. John's College. Really?
I graduated in 11.
It's a small world. I wouldn't tell you when I graduated, but I'll say I was at the school on the hill over there. The old school. That's no longer there, the old St. John's. And when I was there, we had to do Latin, Jesus. From Form 1 straight up to Form 5, and then do it at GC level, which you guys call BGCSE. That's where BGCSE came out of. That's the local version of the UK GC examinations. So they used to send these little pink pieces of paper from the UK. Flicking, you're suffering through them. Then they send it back up to those bloody people in the UK who mark your paper like they hate you. I know you guys don't know about that. Trust me. Anybody ever did a UK course? They don't play. When you do a UK course, for example, whether it's accounting, they might tell you your passing grade is 50. And these man, any fool could get 50. Try it. You better prepare like your guts need it just to get the passing grade. Now, some people, you know, the geniuses get 70, 80, all that. But see that? Because they tend to be the more stringent in their little UK examiners. All right. So yeah. So we had to do Latin. So one of the words I learned in Latin a long time ago was the word fides, which means faith. That's where fidelity comes from. And infidelity. See? So fides means F-A-I-T-H. So fiduciary comes from fides, which means like whatever you do for your clients as a trustee, you must do it in good faith, with due care and due diligence. That's what fiduciaryship is all about. Okay? So why is a bank called a fiduciary? Because when you put your money in the bank, they expect you to protect it as if it was their own. See my point? So anything we do in good faith, we are referred to as fiduciaries. Why are lawyers fiduciaries?
Trust them.
They're expected, yes.
The right thing.
Yes. Accountants? Same thing. Spouses?
To do the right thing.
That's why here, you unfaithful bastard. Infidel. Yeah, has to do with fiduciary responsibility. Isn't that interesting? So we'll see that the trustee falls into that group as a fiduciary as well. And then there's a little discussion at the end, distinguishing the difference between powers and duties. And we have to do that because they're not the same. And you cannot come out of your course thinking that they're the same, otherwise in that area will be a little mixed up, and you don't want to be mixed up, you want to be clear. All right. So I think I have talked enough. It's time for others to get involved. Do a little reading for the class. While you're reading, I'm going to interrupt you. I say, hold it. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? Or while you're reading, you might stop yourself. Excuse me, I have a question before I go on. If you want to do that, please do. That's what I want you to do. Okay? If you're reading something in the session and you remember something from work or something comes to mind, stop yourself. Excuse me, I have a question before I go on. Don't wait until whenever. And then we'll all stop. How about that? And entertain your question, then we go on. That goes for online students as well. If something is going on, you have a question or you're reading, jump in, let's deal with it, and then we move on. All right. So who's going to be my first culprit? The vet's name at the top. That's the problem with being at the top. We always call the person at the top first. Okay, Levette. Today we start at the top. If I remember next week, we'll start at the bottom. If I don't remember, you can remind me, like, excuse me, you started with me last week. Should we not start at the bottom?
So I'm sure she'll remind me.
Yeah. I wonder how old Levette is going to be. Do you know?
She
She didn't tell you?
She graduated in 2011.
That's still a math? 2011, that's 10 years ago. 22 and 10 is 30.
25, 24?
2011? 2011, she was like out of high school
16. 17 turning 18.
in 2011.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she's almost 30.
Yeah, I'll be 29.
Oh, man. You're sort of a babe in swaddling clothes. Yeah, you're still a babe in swaddling clothes, only 29. That's disgusting. Okay, yeah. When I was 20, I didn't even have any children yet. I was just still suffering, kind of, what am I gonna do? Should I even have these things? Once you have children, she'll tell you. That- What? Correct?
Your life change.
Everything changes. So, and then every time you add one more, it changes doubly.
That's why it's 61.
She said, that's it.
And you need a sibling.
That's right.
Your cousins.
Cousins? Oh, I'm not doing this again. All right, point well taken. It's no child's play, that's for sure. Okay, Lavette, why don't you start for us then? The trustee duties.
Read it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As mentioned previously, trustees are fiduciaries, one who acts on behalf of another with regard to a particular matter. And as fiduciaries, trustees are in a position of trust and confidence in which they have a duty of loyalty to the beneficiaries of their respective trusts.
See that? A duty of what? Loyalty. A position of as fiduciary. So you're supposed to go to sleep at night and presume that all is well. Okay, and if you read that case, now I don't know what Christine told you guys about reading cases, but you're not here to be lawyers. Right? The problem with Christine is she's a lawyer. So they like to try and tie you up in lawyer stuff. That doesn't mean it's not important. But when you read a case for the purposes, in my opinion anyway, of these sessions, you read the salient parts of the case. For that, if you have time to read all, and because you're excited about cases, fine. Don't get me wrong. But if time is an issue and all this kind of stuff, you read the what? Salient parts, like the opening. What is this case all about? What happened and what was the result? You follow, folks? And of course, try to remember the name of the case. Will you remember all of them? Hell no. Should you lose sleep if you don't remember all? Hell no. Who the hell's gonna remember all except Tingham? You know, every now and then you have somebody who remembers all because they are whatever the hell it is. But most of us, we're not in that category. We just try to do the best we can. Okay, and if you do that with some diligence, you should be fine. Okay, keep going.
Okay, a trustee has a standard of care as established in Spite and versus Gaunt. That as a general rule, a trustee sufficiently discharges his duty if he takes in managing trust affairs as those precautions, which an ordinary prudent man of business would take in managing affairs of his own. A higher standard care is required for professional trustee. Trustees' duties relate primarily to the management of trust assets and the distribution of such assets in accordance to the provisions of the trust instrument. Generally, these duties are owed to the beneficiaries of the trust, and any breach of those duties or an improper or negligent performance of such duties may result in commencement of a breach of trust action by the beneficiaries or some liability on the part of the trustee.
Now notice that little paragraph she read seems so simple, but in practice, it's loaded with all kinds of firepower, explosions, and nuclear weapons. Okay, this duty that trustees have towards the beneficiary to act in good faith. Any action that is taken by the trustee, even if it's not real, even if it's only perceived by beneficiaries to be out of faith, good faith, beneficiaries in many cases will sue. And they will say through their lawyers that the trustee is in breach of trust. And they'll try and make a case against the trustee, to sue the trustee, to get money out of the trustee, to get more out of the trustee. They sometimes even have the trustee what? Remove the trustee. Now, even at this early stage in your academic career and trusteeship, why do you think a trustee is not interested in being removed as a trustee these days?
Because you lose the job.
Well, not necessarily. Maybe, but that's not the worst thing for a trustee. You still go on as a trustee, but if you lose a particular trust account, what are you losing? Well,
Trust.
yeah, but something that trustees consider even above integrity sometimes. It starts with F. I know.
Can't be financial.
Trustee fees.
Fees,
The primary reason why trustees are trustees to make money, not because they love settlers and they adore beneficiaries. Oh,
oh, you lose fees.
yeah, trustee fees. And remember now, folks, I don't know if Christine told you guys, but there are two types of trustees. One is called the individual trustee. And the other one is called professional trustees. How about that? Now, you guys in here work for professional trustees. Scotiabank Wealth Management, Winterbottom, and all the other trust companies in the Bahamas and around the world. They are professional trustees. Why? Because they are incorporated companies and they have professionals working in the firm to do the work of the trusteeship. So they are professional and they charge a fee. You know, you guys get paid through trustee fees.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how you get paid.
Wow.
If all the trust accounts are removed, you have to go home because there's nothing to pay you with.
So when we see trust close, then we need to be like,
Yeah, like they say, oh Jesus, please thank you. Why? You don't want to see any trusts close?
that's interesting. We got a few to see.
I know. Because for some reason or another, they will be closing from time to time, of course. But again, those you guys work for established trust companies with legacy trusts. So a couple of trusts closing from time to time is not going to hurt you in the long run, but it does hurt your bottom line, which you guys are not involved in yet because you're not in the bottom line discussions. That's further up in senior management. Okay, you just come in and do what they tell you to do. Do this every day. And then you try to be diligent with that. But up the line, all this crazy stuff is going on. Okay, so trustee fees that's what professional trustees earn. And the law requires common law and the law, in some cases civil law, if there's such an allowance, that the trustee can charge a trustee fee for their services. Now, since trustees have to hire lawyers and accountants and you guys and other professionals to help them get the work done, they have to pay them exorbitant salaries. Not they don't have to pay them, but they do get paid very well for their skills. Okay, and all of that money comes out of the fees that are collected by trustees from trusteeships. Okay, for sure. So that's the professional trustee. On the other hand, you have the individual trustee. So somebody, for example, might come to one of you guys and say, I'd like you to be my trustee in the event that I die, that you will act as trustee for what I'm leaving for my children, because they trust you. See my point? That you will do what? As an individual, you will do what is necessary to make sure that their wishes are carried out on behalf of their children. That would make you an individual trustee. So you go to a lawyer, do a quick and dirty trustee based on what the settler wants you to be an individual trustee. Should you get paid for that under common law? No, that is something you just volunteer to do. But if you say to the person, I'm gonna have to do a little work in order to make this happen, let's negotiate a reasonable fee, and they agree, you can put that in the trust document. You follow? If you don't put in the trust document, you may not get paid if you say you should. You can take it to court. The court may say, okay, yeah, you did some work, and the court will decide how much you should get or not. Okay, so that's kind of how it works on the individual trustee level. Guess if I had enough lifetimes, I'd done some of that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but you don't have enough lifetimes to go with it, so you have to pick something and go with it. All right. Even though I did get to do some crazy stuff, though, when I think about it, kiss my foot. God. When I have discussions with my sons now who are men, now that they're aware of things now, because when they're children who are not aware of anything, so to speak, they said, Dad, so how did you do all this stuff and still be home to come to our games and our swimming meets? See, that's a whole other challenge that they couldn't figure out. There you go. Sacrifice. Mother's sick. And hopefully if they have children one day, they'll get it. Like, mother's sick. That's why a lot of parents don't go. Because first, they don't want to make the sacrifice. Their jobs demand that I'll figure you up if you leave this job or whatever. But see, my problem was I was a little bold from back then, so to speak. You see, when I had something to do with my children, I already made up my mind before I had children that yes, I'll work weekends and holidays and late at night and all that to get certain things done for the job. But when it comes to my children, I don't want the job telling me no horse dead and cow fat with you. So I found all kind of ways around it, including going directly and say, I need to do this. I'll pick it up when I get back. I've had bosses who said, picking up children in dinner is a woman's job. I said, maybe, but not in my house. I deal with my children whenever I choose. And however, so they were amazed by that because most guys in the firm, as far as they're concerned, that's the maid's job, the wife's job, not the man's job. So they were all like, I was weird. Because see, every lunchtime, I'm headed out, but not to lunch, see? Yeah. They thought I was going out to lunch initially, and then they found out, this is what you do every day? I like, every day. And I did that for about 15 years almost.
Wow.
Until my wife finally came to say, drop another bomb. I'm like, what the hell am I doing again? Isn't all that other crap, you know? Can I talk to you? They said, oh, God, when your wife said, can I talk to you? Just like on TV. It's not good news. I'm like, okay. And she came very sweet. What you think about me? See this? The word of staying home. Jeez.
Wow.
I'm like, staying home.
Housewife.
Man. And then she started giving me reasons. I can now pick up the children, make sure they don't have to run and pick me up from work every day. She gave me a whole list of stuff. Then my hand, what? And I'm thinking, God must be hating me.
Oh, Lord.
But anyway, for some reason, I don't know what the.
You said yes.
Yeah, because you know what the reason was? It wasn't necessarily because she asked me, but I was so daddy struck. Because see, I wasn't thinking about what she was saying. I was thinking how this would benefit my children. And that's how I got stuck again, in children. So this me, okay, let's try it. She's laughing at it. And that was 20-something plus years ago, see? Now, that's the other thing that has my children baffled. Dad, how the?
That's you. You used to breadwinner. That's you.
Man, they are baffled by it all. Because see, in a modern society, you need both partners working. And even then, yeah. And then too, not only now, then too. That's why I'm like, what the hell? But anyway, I'm just telling you guys this so that as you go through your challenges, don't jump over the bridge. Things eventually work out if you stay with. Don't do some of these crazy things though. Like if your husband comes, can I stay on the time? Are you kidding me? Try that. All right. So yeah, trustee fees is what comes out of all this. If they're not doing it in good faith, all right, there's a reason. All right, keep going. Now notice we're told if the trustee stops acting in good faith, then the beneficiaries are going to take action for any kind of improper, real or imagined, even if they don't have any clue, proof. If they feel it, gut feeling, they start rumbling, call their lawyer and shush the lawyer and the trustee, send a letter. I represent beneficiary number 37 or whatever the name they give. And then all hell breaks loose again for the trustee. All right. Okay, keep going.
The trustees' duties may be divided into three broad categories of duties. 1, management duties. That is investment, management, and distribution of trust property reasonably fairly, prudently, and equitably.
See those words? They're deep. When you get a moment, go to the little Google thing if you don't know some of those words and see what they mean. See? You don't see distribution of trust assets in accordance with the trust instrument isn't just giving it to who's supposed to get what. See what follows that? Reasonably, fairly. That means some trustees are what? Unfair. Especially with what? Discretionary trust. They may like some beneficiaries more than others. And therefore, since they feel that, see like that. So they're fair, they act unfairly towards those they don't like. But the rules don't have anything to do with how you feel. You're to distribute according to good faith. See my thing, folks? So this thing is not just academic and the formal side of things. All these little things, prudently. What does that mean? Wisely. Especially if it's a what? Discretionary trust. Wisely. And then equally, fairly. Man, if you don't be careful, you could read, you could just cruise over those words and say, just like when you're getting married. Do you love, care, and look after, and for better and for worse? He said, so hurry to go home and hug up? Say, yeah, yeah. You're not even hairy? No. It's the same thing with this. If you don't be careful, just read over it and move on. So, okay, keep going.
Administrative duties. Trustees must know and carry out the terms of the trust. Duties of propriety. Trustees must not act dishonestly and inappropriately, must treat all beneficiaries fairly, and communicate with beneficiaries in a professional and timely manner.
Man, folks, I know you might be wondering, well, isn't that part of the job anyway? Yes, but doesn't mean people are doing it. Just like when you go in the hospital, sometimes you think all nurses are supposed to be nice, but they're not all nice. How about that? Same thing as trustees. They're all supposed to be acting this way, but they all don't. And they have to all be reminded. That's why we do these things in these formal sessions. And that's why trustees should be doing some updates and being trained and go to seminars so they could be reminded. Not that you don't know you should do it, but you have to be reminded sometimes. Okay, I did that same seminar I told you about earlier this week with a major company. And there were two groups. The operations side, which is front office, back office, and all that stuff. Then there was the executive team. Okay, and of course the executive team, that's a strange group. Who were they? The president and CFO. Head of COO, the head of business relations, the head of legal, all that stuff. So everybody have their own little thing going on. Okay, and so they have this thing like, I do this, so I'm really versed anyway. Well, I don't have to come to this thing. That's the normal thing for executives. They don't like to do these things unless they're having caviar and drinking wine, all that. Okay, and they don't listen because they figure they have it all together. Truth is, yeah, they're supposed to know. But it isn't about whether you know or not. It's about being reminded. See? That's why when you get married, after so many years, your spouse says, do you still love me? They say, oh, wow, and I still young. That's not what she or he wants to hear. They want you to say it.
Yes.
Same thing, to be reminded, the trustee, and in any capacity. See? That's how this stuff works. It's not enough like, oh, I did that class with Mr. Wilkinson and those. That's, yeah. But you still need to go to sessions and remind yourself and all this stuff of what you really, yes. So you don't waver. See, that's the whole point. All right, keep going.
Okay. One of the primary duties of a trustee in relation to trust administration is to act in good faith in the best interest of the trust. Additionally, trustees must not place themselves in a position where their duty conflicts with their personal interests. Should a trustee's duty conflict with his personal interests, he will be liable to account to the beneficiaries for any profits made by him as a result of this conflict.
So if you're a trustee, don't use your influence as a trustee to open up your own business to compete with the trustee company, the beneficiary company and all that stuff. That's considered a conflict of Yes, but people do that all the time. Because they have inside information, they start making their own inside deals, setting up their own little company, connecting stuff, doing all kinds of weird stuff to make what? Money. It's called profiting from your relationship. So sometimes when you see these people going into politics and sitting on boards and becoming trustee, whatever, that's not just because they're excited about doing those jobs. They're thinking about how they could what? Profit from it as well. And oftentimes these profits are a conflict of interest. Oftentimes these conflicts of interest lead to illegality, illegal, and sometimes even immoral behavior. All for the money. That's it. People have asked me for decades, Mr. Wilkinson, why don't you go into politics? I said the answer is simple, because I wouldn't last as long as Patty last in the army. That's what my grandma used to say. Patty must have gotten shot as soon as he ran off the boat. Like so many of them, unfortunately. And the reason for that is, see, here's my problem. And I always knew it from when I was a youngster, 20-something. See, I'll pick a simple example, nothing complicated yet. Simple example. See these potholes in Nassau? Anybody knows about them?
Mhm.
A prevalent problem everywhere that they seem like they can't fix. But we could fly off and spend millions of dollars to find out how fun. See, I was gonna be the guy who said, how the hell you could go off and spend $1 million and people's cars are still dropping in holes and being busted.
And the streets flooded because they don't clean.
I'm not even gonna get to that yet, because we were talking about that from when I was a boy walking, kicking stuff in the road, water. See my point? Old problem. And so then they were gonna get, then I was gonna drive up to the minister at the ministry and say, the potholes, every week, the potholes, and they start talking about me. That new minute politician is, yes. That would have been my problem. Because I did that stuff in my professional life from time to time. They hated even then.
Pressing issues.
Yeah, I always came up for trying to do what was required. People don't really want you to press them. They want to get to whenever they. So if you're the guy dropping reminders, when they pass you, they're like, they don't want to deal with you. And then they go in a group and you're isolated. That's how they get you to shut up. By isolating you, they think. Okay, so I would not have made it as a politician. Furthermore, I don't do this well. Suck up. See that? So in order to get a nomination, you have to suck up somewhere, like be hanging out all the time, whatever they do. I can't do that. All I could say is, I promise I'll get things done. And if that's not enough, I'm too bad for me. Dog eat my lunch, because I can't. See, I can't play the suck up game, the kiss up thing. I don't do that very well. I know how to do it. See? And if I chose to do that, I would have been very good at it. See the tone of my voice? Because I know exactly what, yes, and how to do. But I simply choose not to because I chose not to. How about that? But that's easier said than done. Okay, that's an individual decision that we all have to make. But I'm just saying that to say, yeah, when you get out there, you're going to be confronted with stuff and you're going to decide which way you're going to go, even in your own jobs and how you do it. If you haven't seen it already. And if you have seen it already, you will see much more. My. Okay, keep going.
What was that?
It does not matter.
Okay. It does not matter how honestly a trustee acted or that he has invested considerable time or effort in the administration of a trust. If he is found to have acted in conflict of his duties to the beneficiaries of a trust. There may, however, be instances where the trust instrument expressly provides that the fiduciary duty shall not apply in a specific circumstance.
So there are some exceptions, but not too many. Okay, the trustee is expected to know those exceptions, but don't take anything for granted. That's the deal. And then finally,
If a trustee is placed by a settlor in a position where his duty and interest conflicts, then different considerations will apply. And then she have a case. Sorry.
Yeah, the case for you to look at. Okay, and do look at those cases. Remember, if you love cases, read them all and act, like the lawyers do. If you have time constraints, read the salient parts, what happened, what's the point, and what was the result. Okay, and so you can see how the case applies to the particular concept that is being indicated in the particular paragraph or paragraphs. All right, thank you very much, Lovette, for bringing us on board with that. So who is it? Who has to leave soon? Alicia, let me see. She's Alicia. I know, once I catch it. Just sign in and go on, get dressed. Alicia. She must be like, and I tell you, I have to go. All right, Deandra, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Deandra, you are up. In addition to
the foregoing duties, trustees must, 1, become acquainted and familiarize themselves with the terms of the trust. 2, administer the trust in accordance with its terms. 3, treat all beneficiaries fairly and impartially. 4, give account of the trust funds and trust investments to the beneficiaries. 5, invest trust property in a timely and authorized manner. 6, protect and preserve trust property. 7, keep the beneficiaries informed in accordance with the trust instrument and the law. 8, not make a personal profit unless authorized to do so in the trust instrument. The beneficiaries, if side juris, or the court.
Yes, sui juris.
Sui juris.
Another
9,
expression.
9, not delegate the performance of their duties or exercise powers unless authorized to do so by the trust instrument. And 10, act prudently in the administration of the trust.
Now stick a pin, Deandra. Notice what we say. In addition to those things that Lovette mentioned above, now we have 10 more. This is serious, is it not? And each of the 10 is loaded. In case you didn't know this. Please take note of each of the duties listed. They are all crucial. And including the duty that you shouldn't profit. We just talked about that. Don't use your position as a trustee to profit and make money. You could find yourself in breach of trust by doing that, a conflict of interest. Act prudently, we already said that. Keep the beneficiaries what? Number 7.
Informed.
Why do you think that's a duty? Shouldn't that just be a given?
No.
Apparently not. Why is it a duty?
You have to let them know what's going on.
Yeah,
Or else you get into it.
yeah. One of the reasons for that is some trustees keep beneficiaries in the dark for their own personal reasons. There's certain things they're doing, they don't want the beneficiaries to know, that beneficiaries should know. How about that?
It's still the CIA.
Well, they know that, but depending on what they're up to, they don't tell. Okay? Just like spouses, it's like a trustee like this. If one spouse doesn't want the other one to know something, they'll hide it. They'll say what they want them to know, but if there's something else they don't want them to know, they'll hide it. And they really shouldn't do it. And trustees do it, and board of directors do it to shareholders. Who are the shareholders of a company, by the way?
Is it the persons who invest or purchase shares in it?
Yes, they are the persons who invest and purchase shares in the company. But they're not just only the persons who invest and purchase shares in the company. They are legally the owners of the company. Did you know that? Shareholders are owners of the company. You don't get that feeling because it looks like the CEO is the owner, because that's how they behave. They're not the owners, they work for shareholders. Sometimes we get the feeling like the board of directors because they act like God, many of them, but they're not the owners. They are appointed by shareholders, see? But the way they run things gives people, the world even the impression, if you don't know, that you won't believe the shareholders are the owners. You'll think that maybe they are. Board members and senior management. No, they work for shareholders. And so when boards are not doing what is in the best interest of the company, in the shareholders' opinion, shareholders will call a meeting and fire the entire board if necessary, and appoint a new one. Just like beneficiaries will arrange to fire or retire, see? Remove. Doggone stinky trustee, we're tired of you not telling us what's good, see? Yeah, hiding stuff. Now, you guys may not see that down the line yet, but as you achieve more senior positions in your job, 10 years from now, yeah, like maybe if I'm still around, you'll pass, hey, Mr. Wilkinson, you know what? You were freaking right. I'm now a senior, this or that, and mother sick. I could never have imagined back then that this stuff is true, because you can't see it when you're down the line. Sing until you get in up the line. All right, so these are the many duties of the trustee that the trustee must keep in mind at all times. And when we say the trustee, we mean the professional trustee and the individual trustee. Doesn't matter which category you're in. Most persons work for professional trustee firms like you guys. Okay, and so that trust company, as the trustee, is expected through its employees, trust administrator and all the persons who work for the company are expected to be aware of these things. Which means that from time to time, when you guys have departmental meetings and staff meetings and so on, some of these things need to come up, which oftentimes don't come up. In fact, if you guys don't come to do a class, you may not ever hear it. See? In your firm. Because all you do is go in, do the work they tell you, and say, thank God, 7 o'clock again, let me get out of here. All right. Keep going, Deandra. In case of? Keep going, Deandra.
Sorry, the case of Boardman versus Phibbs illustrates the importance of trustees not making secret profits from the trust without authorization.
Secret profits. Now, notice this, folks. They're not saying you can't make profits, depending on what it is, but we don't want you making secret profits. And we don't want you making it without authorization from the relevant source, the beneficiaries. Stop sneaking around making money from our stuff. If you want to make some money, sit down with us and ask us. Yeah, and if we're happy with it, yeah. If not, we'll decline, and then that's it. A lot of times we don't tell because we think they're gonna what? Disagree. And oftentimes you're right, because oftentimes what folks want to do, beneficiaries are not gonna go for it. Okay, that's why we hide it. Okay, so like if you don't want the husband to know, the mother-in-law says, "Hi, I'm not telling him that," and he can hate my mommy or something like that. So I'll just, or vice versa. Yeah, I mean, I hide it. So, by the way, are parents trustees of a family?
No.
No? I mean, it may not appear that way, but not in this sense. But they are trustees in the normal scheme of things.
Yeah.
The family is the original trust.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah, you can't tell family members. If you don't want people to know, don't tell family members. Because see, they start telling other people, other family members, who tell other family members. Before you know it, everything personal is known by everyone. Okay? That's one of the first things I told my wife a million years ago. I've been married forever, but I still have to give her updates. Because see, women like to. Yes, I said, let me tell you, I don't mind you having a relationship with your family. I'm not getting involved in that. But that has nothing to do with our family, see? That's why when you get married, you leave and cleave to each other. You're starting your own what? Family. That doesn't mean you don't love your old family where you came from. That's not that at all. But you have to remove yourself and you can't be telling them everything that's going on in your house. That's why so many marriages are in trouble, because people say too much to family and other people about what's going on in there. Yes, yes. My husband, my wife, and then everybody know. And then when crunch time come, they use it to egg you anyway. My kids use that word egg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, uh-huh. Right, yeah,
Very true.
no doubt about it. Okay? So I said, you can say anything, you're full of a general nature. But whatever happens in the Wilkinson home stays in the.
Wilkinson home.
Now, if you wish to be a Nixon again, let's know. But until then, see, that way you keep everything in order. Because once you start telling folk, they can tell other folk. And everybody's in your flicking grits.
And they carry the story, you know.
Of course, by the time it gets down there, it's a whole other story. Yeah, I hear you slap up. Time it never happened. And before you know it, when you walk in the room, like,
A man beat up.
Yeah.
Woman beat up.
yes. Because the message got out. By the time it got to wherever, it's a wrong.
Story.
Sick. Boy, that's deep.
That is.
Now, if you have a wife beater, call the police. That's a different story. That's not what I mean. But in the normal scheme of things, see? Leave him. You don't need no marital rape and all that stuff. You pull that over, then if you don't like it, then leave. Just like we leave for other things, don't we? We don't need no law. People know when to leave if they want to. They need to. But you're gonna legislate for and then accuse somebody wrongly, they go to prison wrongly, because then people start, and somebody get mad and fight, break up, burn somebody. You send my brother to prison for nothing like that. It's gonna get stinky. All right. Okay, sorry, Deandra, keep going. You started all this stuff anyway.
No person standing in a fiduciary position when a demand is made upon him by the person to whom he stands in a fiduciary relationship to account for profit acquired by him by reason of the opportunity and the knowledge, or either resulting from it, is entitled to defeat the claim upon any ground save that he made profits with the knowledge and assent of the other person.
In other words, it's the legal position, formal legal mumbo jumbo. But we know now it means what? Don't profit from anything without the proper authorization. Don't move around in secret. If you want to make a profit, tell them. If they say yes, fine. If they say no, leave it. Sometimes people, you tell them no, they still say, well, the hell with you, I'm still going to sneak around and do it. And then before you know it, you have other conflicts. They find out and then all hell breaks loose. All right, keep going.
Profits may be in the form of director's fees, profits made by him where he enters into competition with a business belonging to his trust, or the misuse of opportunities and information.
My. Keep going.
A trustee may not delegate his duties to an agent, third party, or co-trustee unless he is authorized to do so in the trust instruments. In order to delegate such duties, the trustee must ensure that there are provisions made in the trust instrument to allow him to appoint agents and delegate tasks for the administration of the trust.
In other words, if you're a trust administrator, you are responsible for everything. Now, if you need an investment advisor, then you have to find an agent to do that. But the trust instrument must give you the authority to go out and find somebody to do that work. If you need somebody to look at the stock market in terms of investments, a manager, investment managers, you as a trustee, you're responsible. But if you don't have the skill as a trustee, you should have the authorization in a trustee to what? Go out and find experienced investment managers. Do you follow, folks? In other words, in essence, the trustee cannot delegate unless authorized to do so. Simple. It's like if I'm the trustee in my family and my spouse or one of my children, they do something, folks are not going to necessarily say them. They're going to say, that's Mr. Wilkinson's what? Or wife. They don't even call her name. They call her my name. Because as far as they're concerned, I'm the trustee. So if she does something untoward or one of the children, that's Mr. Wilkins. They're not even calling their names. It's me, but I wasn't there. Doesn't matter. So the trustee has that same responsibility. Okay, he cannot delegate anything. When I say he, I mean the institution, or if it's not a professional trustee, the individual, who that might be, the responsibility unless you're authorized to do so. Simple as that. So if you need an investment manager, you need to have it authorized in the trust document. And all of these things are generally for professional trustees built into the trustee at the beginning
Right,
to cover all these things.
so basically, the professional trustees would already then have all these.
Of course,
Requirements.
by all means, there's a standard document now because we perfected every decade, every century even. Those trusteeships have been around for centuries, by the way. Did Christine give you the history of trusteeships?
I read it. 1700.
Yeah. And when guys are going to war, they would leave an individual. They didn't have any professional trustees then. They would find somebody who they trust and leave them as trustees and say, if I don't return from war, I'm authorizing you to distribute my wealth to my family. I will make sure they look after. So it was a verbal agreement in many cases, even not even written down. Because many of them who went to war never,
Yeah.
of course. One of the reasons why I keep telling people God didn't make mistakes. Imagine him if he said, okay, chicks go to war. All the wars we had in the world. How many men died in war? Millions and millions and freaking millions. Imagine if that the same amount of women died in war. What kind of nonsense would that be?
Just be men.
But everybody's equal. All you're gonna go get blown up. Then where the children would be wondering, like, where am I?
Because men have the seeds and women have eggs.
Man, I keep telling people, this is not a competition. God don't make any mistakes. You're supposed to work together, not like fighting, like I'm better than you. I'm a better woman than you's a man. I'm a better man. No, what nonsense is that? Like God made a mistake? How the hell did he make a mistake? And the sun doesn't move. It's the same sun every day. If he could do that, what the hell? Man, I keep telling people, see, you said it again. See, sperm, egg. How the hell? When you put it together, a whole person is formed with the ability to do all it, think, talk, touch, whatever. Man, how could he he doesn't make a mistake. So when he set things up, it's for a reason. And every time throughout the history of man, even to today, whenever we violate it, we catch more and more hell.
Yeah.
And we're gonna catch more and more hell because we continue to violate it. It's nothing to do with who's better than who. Man, if he wanted women to be dumb and stupid, he'd give you half a brain. See my point? There's nothing to, he gave her the same brain, but it ain't about the brain. It ain't about the money. It ain't about that. It's about how you bring it together and follow through together. Say together. Let's see. Okay, who started that again? Deandra. Okay, Deandra, keep going.
In common law, the case of Steele versus Welcome Custodian Trustees Limited, 1988, confirmed that a trustee will be given immunity or protection under law for the delegation of his duties to an agent. However, under the Trustee Act, 1998, the trustee must take reasonable steps in the appointment of such agents and in the supervisor of their delegated task.
In other words, you can delegate, but you have to watch what they're doing. You have to question, you have to get information, you have to monitor. You cannot just delegate and go home and have coffee and say, oh, somebody else is dealing with it. They may be dealing with it, but they're not responsible. Who's responsible ultimately? So if they mess up, who's responsible ultimately? If they do something crooked and evil, who's responsible ultimately? Absolutely. Okay, so be careful. The trustee has to know, yes, you can delegate, but you have to check it out. Make sure things are going right. And if they're not, change the people and find somebody else. Because at the end of the day, you will be held liable. Simple as that. Okay. And then finally, Deandra.
It is important to note that only in exceptional circumstances may a fiduciary receive
Remuneration.
thank you,
Yeah,
but this time
payments, yeah.
for his time and effort in acting in such capacity. As a general rule, trustees are not allowed to be remote. Can you say it again, please?
Remunerated.
Remunerated.
There
Okay.
you go.
for their work in relation to the trust unless they are authorized by the trust instrument.
Hmm.
Therefore, trustees must ensure that the trust instrument allows them to be remuneration
Way to go.
from the from the trust fund for reasonable expenses, example, out-of-pocket expenses incurred in the administration of the trust.
And by extension, trustee fees for professional trustees. So if you're an individual trustee, whatever cost you have to spend out of your pocket in order to run around and get things done to make sure the beneficiaries are satisfied from the program of the trust, you have to put that in the trustee so you can be paid or remunerated from the trust, be reimbursed. For the professional trustee, they will definitely make sure that their fees are included in the trust agreement, and that going forward, that they are able to increase those fees, given the circumstances, that all of that is already done in the trustee, so that they don't run any problems with getting paid, for sure. All right, and then that little paragraph, Deandra?
The court does have discretion to allow remuneration or
Yes.
increase a trustee's remuneration. Foster versus Spencer, 1996, and Reed Duke of Norfolk Settlement Trust, 1982.
Indeed. In other words, in modern times, if there's any dispute about payment, fees, etc., reimbursement, the trustee, individual or professional, can approach the courts and say, I've done this stuff. We didn't remember to put it in the trust instrument. We didn't cover enough. I paid more than we anticipated, and blah, blah, blah. And the court will make a decision as to what is fair and equitable. Okay, folks? Like any other dispute. If you have a dispute about anything, you can take anything to court. And if you're an American, you would know that. Because Americans will sue you for anything, wouldn't they? Anything. Okay. I have a son who lives and works in New York. Sick. Anybody knows the capital of New York? No, man. I know a lot of people think it's Manhattan,
New York, yeah.
not Brooklyn. I know, it's interesting. Yeah, you would think it's Brooklyn or Manhattan. Yeah, when you get a moment, Google it, you'll be pleasantly surprised. But he's up there. And one of the things I tell him is, I said, well, when you're there, make sure you don't even bump into anyone. Because if you bump into the wrong person on the wrong day, might get a lawsuit saying you assaulted them. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you should say that, Lovette. Funny you should say that. Because, did you find it? Albany is the capital. Yes.
And
Wow.
Albany is a smaller town.
Yes, compared to Manhattan and Brooklyn.
Right.
Okay. Anybody watch Law and Order?
Yes.
Where do you think those many of those movies were shot? In Albany.
Oh.
Some of them in
I
Manhattan.
see.
Yeah, but Albany is the capital. A lot of people are not aware of that because Albany is not a prominent
Right.
discussion in New York,
It's like a countryside. Albany is a
Sort of.
countryside.
sort of, compared to Manhattan.
Right.
It's not that big city, Brooklyn, Manhattan type part of New York. Interesting. But that's an old capital because that was the original capital. Okay, when they have not changed it yet. Okay, but it's interesting the thing about looking, because 2 days ago, I get a call in the middle of the day, lunchtime, from my son, the youngest son. He works in Toronto, this flat place. No.
After all that.
Again, if I knew that, I'd have sent them to a COB or tell them, go pay for your own thing and then they'll stay home. But they no, listen to me. The daddy go off and now they clicking all over the place. But then
At least you get places to go.
that's true. I said maybe it's a Joseph and Benjamin thing like in the Bible. Maybe they're there for a reason. It's not just been revealed yet. But yeah, he called me in the middle of the day, said, Dad, I'm glad you answered the phone. I said, well, what happened? He said, my supervisor just came to me and said a few of the ladies in the corner reported me for looking in that direction. I said, did you touch anyone, son? He said, Dad, you know that's not the case. I said, I know, son. But I'm going back to what you're saying. I said, what background do they look they're from? Are they white or black or green? He said, oh, white and Middle Eastern type and this stuff. I like, oh, yeah, be careful. You didn't do anything wrong, but that's just to remind you that the environment in which you're in is very volatile. Okay? They presume just because a black dude was looking that direction, what he's gonna do, run down somebody and rape and rob them? When in fact, most of them come from more volatile backgrounds than he came from. I guarantee you it. Okay? Because they came from a very, they didn't come with the bubble until they went to university. And they were men. They were both big grown up. I've never had a son come in my house at night anytime after 9 o'clock. Never had an interest in the stuff that kept them out that hour. Strange. I don't know how the hell that happened. They just didn't do it. I didn't say you couldn't do it. It's weird. That's why I say they come from much more volatile backgrounds. But the point I'm making is, see, even for something as simple as that, and that's not unique to Toronto, even here. You go in the mall, for example, you look at a certain group of guys too long, they'll be like, what? Yeah, they start a fight for some reason. Strange, because everybody is weird. Because of all these different backgrounds, things are crazy. All right, thank you very much, Deandra, for that. You're the one that created all these different scenarios, but I'm glad you did.
You're welcome.
All the information is going to be useful somewhere, I can guarantee you it. Okay, Siobhan, are you there?
Right there.
Oh, sorry, Siobhan. So getting used to you were saying like I'm online. Okay, Siobhan, we're moving now from trustee duties to?
Trustee powers.
So now you know what the duties are. Now we're gonna see how the duties are different from the powers. All right, Siobhan?
The nature of a trust involves a trustee holding the legal interest in property.
True or false? Nice test, man. True. Why is it true? Because I said at the beginning, whenever you set up a trust, the assets have to be transferred from the settlor legally to the trustee, period. If you don't do that, the trust will fail. Okay, folks? Or it may be declared a sham trust and then fail. All right, keep going.
The equitable interest in the property is held in trust for the beneficiary, its lawful owner.
See that? Now watch how interesting a trust is. First of all, the trustee has legal title to the property, but they cannot do anything with it. In other words, they can't sell it for profit.
It's not there.
No, they're just holding it legally. So they own it, but that's all. It's like a holding company. The beneficiaries cannot sell it either because they only have an equitable interest in it, but no legal interest. The beneficiaries have no legal ownership in the property. Isn't that interesting? Until never. Unless, of course, the trustee makes provision to transfer title to a beneficiary. How about that? Until then, the trustee is only what? The beneficiary is only what? An equitable owner, meaning that they're only entitled to what the trustee says they are entitled to, $1 million a year. You could live in the family home in France, whatever that allows you to do. But that's it. You only get what you're entitled to. You can't take ownership of anything else because ownership lies with the trustee. And once the ownership lies with the trustee, the settlor can't get it back unless there's a provision for him or her to get it back, which doesn't bode well for a real trust. We don't want a settler putting in as a give me, no. You might as well keep your stinking stuff. See my point? And yeah, and make a will. Okay, for sure. That is why trusts tend to be more prevalent for huge, great, larger legacies. Okay, if you have $100,000 or $500,000 or something, hey, what are you setting up a trust for? You could, but maybe you should just do a will. Okay.
But you see, most people don't like the probate part.
Yeah.
And the fee is us, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. If you set up a will, then probate is a minimal aspect of it. Probate only comes into perspective and become a pain when you don't set up a proper will. But if you set up a proper will and say, I give Levette, you and everybody in this class their share, then when the time comes, the lawyer doesn't have anything to do. Take your stinking couple of legal fees and give us the rest, because it's clear.
That happened in my family right now. My uncle, he died last year.
Yes.
And he he had Alzheimer's,
Yes,
but he wrote his will, let's say, in 2003,
yes,
when he was very young and a sound mind. So,
yes.
unfortunately, now everybody that's in the will, a lot of them died as well.
Which is fine.
So it's now they trying to figure out how to distribute everything because, and it's been a year, it's been in probate. Nobody got anything yet.
Yeah, because they're trying to figure out who should get what.
Yeah.
But of course, let's say he left his assets divided equally between his 4 children. Let's just say that. That if the 4 children are dead, then legally, who should get
The
the
one
children's
that-
children? Yeah,
He had 3. No, actually, okay, this is the problem. So he had 3 sons, right?
right,
In the marriage.
right.
And then he had 2 out,
Yep,
and then he had a daughter out.
yep.
So
So 3 out.
3 out, 3 in.
Yes,
One in died.
yes.
Now the 3 out, they trying to figure out, okay, well, now what for us?
Well, under the new laws of the Bahamas,
Get some of
they're
everything
entitled.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, his sister, who's my grand aunt, he left her to be the executor.
sure, that's okay.
And the wife on the will didn't get anything.
Right.
She saw it, so it's a lot of.
Yeah, they're
drama,
gonna
like back
contest
and
it.
forth. The
Yeah,
They
and-
can't
lawyer
contest it
taking
because
a
he's in
long
sound
time.
mind at-
But that's-
At that
2003.
time,
Now, remember, even though he was in sound mind, you could still contest it, just doesn't mean you win. You can challenge anything.
so you think the family waiting for the probate to be done before they contest it?
Probably, or they're waiting to see what the results of the probate will be
And then
before doing anything.
them three outside
Now,
kids
the
to be
problem
straight.
to it is like he gained a lot more assets later on in his life.
Right,
And his middle son is the one who really used to take him around to the fine.
doesn't matter who takes him around.
So before he was, anyway.
Yeah.
Before he signed off on some things, now his son has access to the bank.
Which is different.
And unfortunately, he was paying all his children's school fee and everything.
Of course.
Buying his car,
Of
everything off
course.
the money.
Of course.
So now it makes you wonder, is the account frozen since he died? or
Well,
is
the
it-
problem is, say, any account that doesn't have a beneficiary or co-applicant sign like the son, say, like if he's a co-signer, they can't freeze him out because he's a co-signer, and whoever dies, the person who remains on the account have access to it legally. But any other account where there are no co-signers, they can be frozen until probate is done. Okay, that's why you have to be careful who you put on your account. Okay, because once you put their names on it, they have legal right to it to the very end, to do anything they want.
And that's scary. Because that caused all kinds of problems.
Okay, so maybe the probate sometimes is better. So you give the whole thing chance for it to go the way it should
It
go.
should go.
Because if you don't do that, the persons who have access and all that tend to do
They
some
spend
crazy
all
stuff.
the money.
Sure. Okay, that's why some people, they die without a will on purpose. So that the whole thing could go to probate and whoever's to get what eventually get it. But somehow, eventually, rather than 1 or 2 people having access who will not be fair about the whole yes. And so we have to be, it's a very, very gray area always, will or no will. A will makes it easier, no will makes it
You
harder.
had anything before all of this, so why now?
That's how it is. Remember how we go, people like stuff, we greedy, we wanna, yeah. Yeah, so that's gonna be a while before like the whole thing gets settled, indeed. All right. Thank you for that point. Very, 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 that's one of the reasons why trust accounts are set up as well. Because once you set up a trust, then all that probate stuff goes out the door, so to speak. That doesn't mean trusts do not have their unique problems, but oftentimes to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
A power is where a person owns both the legal and equitable interest in property. As the absolute owner of the property, the person may do as he wishes with the property and may, in his absolute discretion, transfer all or part of the property to another person. It is important to note that while a trustee may be the legal owner of trust property, he does not have the full powers of a legal owner of property as recognized in law.
As we just discussed, he has possession, he can hold it legally, but that's all the trustee can do. Cannot resell it, cannot use it for investments and so on.
Unless the settler says that the trustee or?
The trustee will have to make provisions for how the trustee can act with the assets. But for example, if you have $10 million in cash, the trustee has the right to, through the trustee, to invest the money to earn interest or return for dividends or whatever that will increase the value of the cash holdings. But that's all they can do. They cannot, for example, transfer any of the cash to anybody who's not entitled to it. Okay, they will have to be a beneficiary who's entitled under the deed.
As I was telling, actually, our previous class, a lot of like the trustee have, you see like a lot of monthly statements because they reinvest the money in the
Of
stock
course.
market and things.
Of course, because they have a duty to continue to add to the cash and asset position of the trust. Any trustee who's found letting money sit without taking prudent steps to invest it can be found to be in breach of trust, actually. Because you might have a trustee like in the Bible story where the guy said, I hid it in the ground. So he said, I didn't do anything, I just left it there. And the beneficiary said, but you could have invested it wisely and made some more money for the trust. And you didn't, so you're in breach of trust. And sometimes they can win and have the trustee have to pay over fees, damages, and maybe even change the trustee. So yes, that's where you would see that coming in. And that's where the accounting side of it, accounting for those things. Make sure the record is kept current on those kinds of things. Okay, yeah, a lot of things going on. Okay, keep going.
Trustees may exercise such powers given to them in the trust deed under the Trustee Act or under the general law. Recall that a power is discretionary and the duty is mandatory.
Let's stop for a minute. A power is discretionary, but a duty is mandatory. Man, I don't know if you've underlined that yet, but that is absolutely crucial. So if you have a trustee power, it is what?
Discretionary.
Meaning that you can exercise it according to the circumstances. But if you have a duty, you don't have a choice.
No.
You have to do it. You don't have to exercise every power you might have, but you have to carry out every duty. Wow, that's deep. And any trustee who forgets might be forgetting at their own peril, depending on which beneficiary they piss off. See my point? That's the word they like to use. Don't piss me off, Mr. Trustee. I'll sue you. Because the young beneficiaries of the modern times, they're looking to sue anything, anybody for anything. Parents, guardians, family, and they don't care. The cat, the rat, and the roach, they don't care. All right, keep going.
In the absence of bad faith, a court will not interfere with a trustee's exercise of his discretion. A trustee will also not be compelled to exercise his fiduciary powers, even though he has a duty to exercise such power. The distinction between a trust and a power placed in a trust was outlined in the case of McPhail versus Dalton, 1971.
Happy reading.
The powers of a trustee may statute are set out in parts 2, 3, and 4 of the Trustee Act. Some of the main powers are.
Sorry, trustee act of what? Which trustee act is that?
Parts 2, 3, and 4.
Actually, that should be parts. That's a typo.
P-A-R-T.
Yeah,
Yes.
parts 2, 3, and 4. Which trustee act are we referring to here?
Investments, general powers of trustees and personal representatives.
I mean, well, not the powers themselves. Which act are we referring to? Is this a trustee act of the UK?
No, the Bahamas.
Of the Bahamas, okay? You may want to make a note of that. We have, the UK have their own trustee act. In fact, our trustee act was in part drawn from that with some modern things added to it back in 1988, remember that? And then amended in 2011 and so on. All right, so it's a trustee act of the Bahamas, okay? And then, Siobhan, some of those powers are?
Some of the main powers are power of investment, power to retain.
Now, remember, the power is what? Mandatory or optional?
Discretionary.
Optional.
Yeah, discretionary or optional, okay? So this power to invest, does that mean the trustee have to invest? Why not?
This is just a
Discretionary means you can do it or not do it. If it was a what?
duty.
Then you,
Have to.
so if the power to invest was a duty, he would not have any choice.
Right.
But if it was a duty to invest, he would have no choice. But because it's a power to invest, he may or may not do it.
It's like a suggestion.
Yeah, but if you don't do it, the beneficiary gonna come after you. See? Like, how come you didn't invest the bloody assets so we could have more?
Right.
Kind of trustee are you? We know it's discretionary, but this is bad discretion. And for that, we're gonna change you, you stinky trustee, and find somebody who will invest their power to do what's what? In our interest.
So I have a question. So
Yes.
beneficiaries, let's just say, the settler leaves them millions of dollars. Beneficiaries could come at any time during, I guess, them having access to the trustee and say that we want these funds to be invested. And-
No, that's a good question. The beneficiaries typically do not have the right or the power to direct the trustee.
No, because
Okay.
everything's supposed to be in the deed.
The trustee is the one who will direct how and when the investments will be done. The only thing the beneficiaries do is wait to receive what is due to them. Whether it's every month, every year, every quarter, whatever the case might be. Okay, so that's a good point. Now, the beneficiaries do not get involved in the investment process at all. They could say, in our opinion, not investing enough. They could say that. They could say, we think you should do more as far as the investments are concerned, but they cannot make the trustee do it.
And I didn't realize that when like stuff like that happened, it's a trust resolution, right? Because things change.
Yes,
And then you have to give minutes and say, okay, in the meeting, this is what the.
Of course.
beneficiaries wanted.
in every meeting, there should be trustee minutes
Yeah, and then you have resolution.
in terms of decisions that are made within that meeting, of course. And if you don't do that, then of course that becomes part of the trustee paperwork, which of course beneficiaries are not necessarily entitled to see. But the trustee needs to do that in order to cut KY, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
CYA.
cover their, yeah, CYA. Cover their butts, okay? In case something goes wrong, they'll have the history, yeah, well, this is what we discussed, this is what we agreed. For God's sake, don't have trustee meetings with beneficiaries or otherwise, and don't document it. You're putting yourself in trouble, potentially, just like any other meeting of the board or any other such meeting. All right, so power of investment, yes?
Power to retain investment, power of sale, power to insure.
Meaning insure trust assets. Like if the trustee is holding a boat, castle, painting or whatever, they have to make sure they're insured. Because if there's a fire, or stolen, or damage, and they're not insured, dog eat your lunch as a trustee. There's some beneficiaries coming after you. How the hell could you not insure our assets? See? But again, power means they don't have to. But,
The wise.
And then it'd be
Prudence.
wise, yeah.
excuse me?
Prudence.
Yeah, you guys are using the buzzwords now. That's good. The prudent thing to do. Yes, you have the power. You don't have to, I have the power, I don't have to, fine. It's not mandatory.
Okay, so let's just say something like that happens where they don't insure something
Mhm.
and it either gets stolen or it's burned down, like what would be the consequences?
Then the beneficiary will come back and say, you, Mr. Trustee, have to replace it from your money.
Right.
Because you are the one who did not insure it under your power to do so.
What if
But
you don't
the
have
power
to
is
do-
optional though.
That's okay. But in being an option, you still have to act prudently. So if you buy a home, Siobhan,
Mhm.
would you insure it or not?
Oh, of course.
Why?
Just
Does it
in
stop?
case, just in case.
Same principle. Okay, now if your home burns down, you don't have any beneficiaries coming after you, but your beneficiaries will suffer. Who's your son or daughter? Same principle. So yes, the power may show the option, but in exercising your power, you have to exercise good judgment and prudence. See? And so if it burns down or gets stolen or destroyed and you didn't have it insured, they're coming after you. And according to history and the common law especially, the courts will not rule in your favor as trustee, especially if you are this. But all those professional people working in your firm, and all
Oh, so
those
they'll
millions
sue
of.
the firm, not necessarily you as that.
Oh, no, when you're a professional trustee, you're not suing an individual. You're suing we're suing Scotia Trust,
Oh.
not you.
Although you made the mistake.
Doesn't matter, they just kick you out.
There'd still be a liability. to
Yeah, they
the
sue
company.
Scotia
Yeah,
Trust.
that's what
They
do.
sue Winterbottom Trust. They sue the trust company, the trustee, which is the company, not the individuals who work there. Now, If you were the one in the company responsible because you didn't carry out your job, then they fire you. But the company gets sued as a trustee. Ah. You guys are coming up with some good points early. Eventually, when you get into part 2, there's some other crazy things that are going on. All right, keep going.
Power to compound liabilities and settle claims, power of maintenance, power of advancement, power to concur with others, power to employ agents, power to apply to the court.
Lots of powers.
Mhm.
And see, here's the problem with power. When you have power, you may or may not exercise it. But like everything else, whenever you decide to exercise it, you should exercise it prudently. The reason why we have dictators like Fadi up in North Korea, he has the power to send off a missile, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because they have it, he wants to do it. We're not sure yet what's keeping him. Maybe he knows that once he does it, then he'll be burnt up too. And he doesn't want to be burnt up. Because the minute he releases it, what's going to happen? Well, another country is going to release one on their country. So once North Korea sends the thing up, the other countries will seek to intercept it if they could. If they can't, then wherever it lands, they'll get their lunch. But once it lets go, then another country is going to send one over to North Korea. So Fadi and all his people will
Don't
be
let them be allies, so there might be 2 or 3 coming.
correct. Okay, so until he decides, I don't care if I get burnt up, I just want to wreak havoc because I have the power to, and I want to feel like God, not God, God doesn't do nonsense, the devil for a moment. See my point? Yeah. So having a power is a very serious thing because once you have power, you only have 2 ways to deal with it, prudently or imprudently, which has been the way of the world forever anyway. When they threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he had the power. He didn't have to, right? But he threw them in because he had the power to do it. The same thing. He didn't have to. My. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the trustee. See, all those millions you collect in fees, they don't come cheap. You have a big responsibility as a trustee. And you have trustees all over the Western world because they make a lot of money being trustees and managing billions and billions of dollars all over the world for settlers.
So I have this next question.
Mhm.
So when it comes to the insurance, do we take that out of our fees or they still pay for the insurance
No,
themselves from their monies?
Yeah, the insurance is covered by trustee funds. Not trustees, I'm sorry, the trust fund. In other words, the trustee doesn't pay it out of his fees.
Right.
They pay it out of the trust
Trust
fund,
fund.
yeah. By all means. All right, keep going.
Within a trustee's fiduciary power is the duty to consider whether to distribute income or capital, although he is not under a duty to actually distribute.
What does under duty mean? Now that you know.
Mandatory.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. He may issue or not, because it's a duty, because it's a power and not a duty, he doesn't have to distribute. Okay? But what happens if he exercises the power not to distribute year after year after year? What do you think is gonna happen? Well, man, beneficiaries are not gonna stand. No, if for example, beneficiaries expect to get $1 million every year, and the trustee in his power says, I'm not gonna distribute for the next 5 years, what do you think is gonna happen? War, been gone,
And some lawsuits.
and sued. For all kinds of, are you crazy? We know you have the power, don't exercise your power over our doggone distribution imprudently, see? They've taken every court in the land. Foreign land, even if necessary. All right, keep going.
Generally, a trustee must consider whether and how he ought to exercise his fiduciary power as stipulated in the case of Matoy Pensions Trustee Limited versus Evans. Under trust law, a trustee is mandated to exercise his powers to distribute trust property in accordance with the provisions of the trust instrument.
See that? In accordance with the trust instrument. If it's not in the instrument, then you shouldn't do it. If the instrument says it's discretionary, then you can go beyond blah, 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 because it's discretionary. If the instrument is fixed, you only can do what the instrument says. Okay? Very important. But the instrument is the key, isn't it? That's your Bible and trust. Yes, that trust deed, that trust instrument. Okay, keep going.
As a corollary
Oh, corollary, yes. Mhm.
of this principle, the discretion to exercise such powers must be done honestly, fairly, and in good faith.
We saw that before, didn't we?
Mhm.
It's not there just to bore you, because it's one of the foundational issues of being a trustee. That's why we call them trustee. In God we,
Trust.
in trustees we,
Trust.
in husbands we.
Trust.
Yes, we should be able to, in principle. In wives we, yes, same thing applies. See my point? Now, if people decide to do otherwise, it has nothing to do with the principles, see? That's what principles are all about. Principles are about what we should do. Now, what we choose to do is a whole other issue. Don't mix it up with the principle, like to make them all look the same. They're not. The principle always stands forever. Now, the crap we do behind it, it's another story. Keep going.
The trustee must always keep in mind the goals of the trustee, which are primarily to protect and preserve trust property on behalf of the beneficiaries.
My. See, whatever you do, the fiduciary responsibility dictates. I don't care power, mandate, whatever the hell you're doing as a trustee. At the end of it all, the fundamental thing to keep in mind is you have to be doing what's in the best interest of the trust of the beneficiaries, period. Not you, not the set law, not the government, nor anybody else. Only what's in the best interest of the, absolutely. Otherwise, if you're found to be doing anything that is not in the best interest of the beneficiary, you can find yourself in breach of trust. And then they're coming after you with their lawyers. Lawyer up and come after you. All right, keep going.
Once the trustee acts in good faith in exercising his powers of discretion regarding the distribution of trust property, he will be protected by law, particularly if he has done so according to the terms of the trust instrument and as permitted by law.
See that? It's not complicated. Like anything else, we only get in trouble when we violate the rules, don't we? True? Just think about your own personal lives. If, for example, your parents tell you growing up, don't touch that, you'll never have a problem, just keep walking like this. When you run into trouble, you're like this. Let's start getting curious. Why not? I want to. My cousin tell me to touch it. They touch theirs. See, we come up with all kind of reasons, don't we? And then, yes, but as long as you walk on like that, nothing. And I proved that when I was a boy. My mom had a living room, and she was a very meticulous one. It wasn't a big house, but she was meticulous. She's one of those chicks. Everything had to be in place. See my bike? Look at that, in place. Why? Because I'm stuck with that now. From then, she fixed the living room. Nobody goes over there. Like how some kids jump in the living room, put their feet on it. No way. And we all knew, my sister and I, when we walk to the front door, we walk straight past like it's never there. Because we know that if we turn left, it was right there. Dog eat our lunch. Because the living room was not for children to lay off in and abuse, not in my mom's house, nor anyone else for that matter. So when you visit my mom, you don't do that, because she'll tell you straight up, not in my living room. If you don't like it, don't return. Because when she comes to your house, she will not do it either. You're like some people like this, family guy, put their feet on the table. No way. So the point is the same thing. The trustee has nothing to worry about as long as they follow through with the rules of the game. The only time a trustee will have something to worry about is if they start violating the rules. And that's oftentimes the problem. Okay, keep going.
The Trustee Act 1998 gives trustees the power to insure themselves and their employees against personal liability and pay insurance premiums from the trust fund except for breach of trust.
So now you can even buy indemnity insurance out of the trust fund in case somebody sues you. You have, because you can pay that out of the trust fund, and that'll hold unless you're in breach of trust. If you're in breach of trust, then you can't pay it out of the indemnity. You have to pay it out of your own money. Okay, again, as long as you do things properly. Yes, do the right thing. That's a serious thing. Do the right thing. And doing the right thing is a major challenge for the average person. That's why people are always, yes, it's sick. Notice it doesn't say be perfect, just says do the right thing. Nobody's perfect, but we're all charged with trying to do the right thing. Yes. All right, and then finally, before we break today,
Additional powers conferred by sections 14 to 31 of the Trustee Act 1998, unless some contrary provision exists in the trust instrument. The trustee's powers may be restricted or increased by the provisions of the trust instrument.
in other words, we end our day today by saying, once again, the instrument drives everything the trustee does. If you want to increase your powers, you have to go back to the beneficiaries and make provisions to increase your powers and amend the trust instrument. If you want to decrease your powers for some reason, you go and have an amendment done to the trustee instrument to decrease your powers. Whatever you do, it should be reflected where? In the trust instrument. If it's not in the original one, have an amendment done. It's called a trust amendment. You can do that. Okay. Just don't go ahead and say, I didn't know I could do that. Too bad, it's too late. You have already violated the rules. If you're not, ignorance is no excuse. That's why we have a ton of lawyers willing to overcharge you, to tell you what they think you should do. Yes. All right, so we're going to stop there today. When we come, please go ahead and finish reading the rest of us, not too much left. And then please answer the questions at the end. When we come back next week, we'll look at the answers that you come up with, finish that section and go right into units 7 and potentially 8, because I think they're not too long. Okay. All right, any questions before we break? Wonderful. Let me just give you guys my contact in case you run into a concept issue, program, administrative issue, something, and you need to reach me. It's interesting trust stuff. By the way, if you work in this jurisdiction in the Bahamas, and a trustee comes to you in Portuguese, what do you need to do first and foremost? Yeah, by whom? No, sorry. You could if you need something quick and dirty, but formally it should be translated and notarized and certified. Okay? Certified by a notary public, yes, to say that this translation is a true and correct version of the original document. So that if something goes wrong, you don't get caught on a legal technicality. Yeah, I translated from Google. Is it really? Who notarized it and certified it? Nobody. I'm sorry. It's not acceptable then in a court of law. Then you stop. All right. I don't believe I even said my name. I'm so busy running into all the other stuff. For those of you who don't know, my name is Samuel Wilkinson. And my cell number, if you need to send me a text or call me, please feel free, 565-9551. Okay. For those of you who can pass it on to your colleagues, please feel free to do that, who might not be in here, not too many people. That's only Mr. Higgs. That's somewhere having, and Janika.
She's not gonna be here anymore.
But she won't be,
No classes anymore.
okay, so you don't have to update her. Okay, great. And then my email address, in case you want to send me an email, is sjhwilkinson@hotmail.com. Feel free to send me a text, call, send me an email, any of those things. If you have any issues in between our class sessions, and I'll be happy to respond. All right, so if there aren't any more pressing questions, just go ahead. Feel free to read ahead if you have time and circumstance. When we come back next week, we'll finish off unit 6 and go right into 7 and 8 as time permits, and see if we can be on schedule to get through all of the stuff we need to get through over the next 2 weeks. All right. In the meantime, you guys be careful and safe out there. I'll see you next week. Pleasure.
Okay, so take
Okay,
care.
take care, ladies.
Bye.
Remember, you guys can't have any fun.
No.
You have to go home now and don't kill yourself, you know what I mean? Do what you gotta do. Yes, that's very important, that reading and making notes or underlying whatever you do to shorten things you want to remember and focus on and that kind of stuff. So that when it's time to study, you don't necessarily have to read the whole thing again. Okay, you can just focus on the key things that we talked about, that you highlighted, that you noted, that kind of stuff.
I like the examples.
Yes. Okay.
See, now you're in good time because wifey didn't call you yet.
No. So far, so good.
Uh-huh.
But I know that call is coming
Very soon.
at some point.
Great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. You guys do the same. Don't take anything for granted. The nuts are out doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. The last class recorded something.
Yeah, just speak with Ms. Dean and company. They should be able to direct you to that. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay, you do the same. Take care. Bye-bye. Pleasure. Okay, I have a governance class at 12:30, so I have to head down to my virtual classroom, believe it or not. I guess the call will come in the middle of that. Take care. See you next week. Okay. Pleasure.
I ready?
Hey, Sam, you have to remind me about this when I go to work. Other than that, I will forget. You usually can find those things online as well. Because they're public knowledge. But printing is what's the problem. Sometimes they're very, very big.